All right, I think we're live. So welcome everyone to another Maran Motoring live stream here on the Maran Motoring YouTube channel. Hope you're all having a great weekend. Thanks so much for tuning in and stopping by here and hanging out with us. So like all the others do live streams, we're going to go for about 2 hours or so. We give priority answering to anyone who has a super chat or a super thanks, as well as anyone who's a member there with the green usernames. They always get that priority answering. If you'd like that as well, there's a link in the description and join buttons elsewhere to also get that priority answering. But I see we have a bunch of you that have already stopped by. Sorry for being a couple minutes late here, but hopefully you guys don't mind. So let me see. We got Truck and Car Guy, Brian, Mr. 705, Antonio, Anthony, Kyle, Cars, Cam Jam, Danny, Alex, Raphael there, Anthony, and Antonio. B. Mitchell and Luke. Thanks so much for joining in, everyone. So let me see, getting right into the questions here. And Trent Car Guys saying hello. Anthony says, what's up, everyone? I'm in New York, and it was so warm this weekend. Saw a bunch of Vipers this morning. I always love the blue with the white stripe GTS. Yeah, that's the classic combo, right? You know, that's the one that was on all the posters and notebooks for school and all that. It was great. Antonio doesn't see those too often. Interesting. Yeah, I don't see too many with that combo either, surprisingly. Cam Jam says aloha, and Cars as well. And Danny says, hello, everyone. Life in New Jersey is going well. My family's Chevy Bolt hit a milestone the other day. Actually hit 67,000 miles on a rebuilt battery done under the recall. Nice. Yeah, the Bolts that have done the recall, it's a great purchase because you got a brand new battery. It's going to last, a good long while. And you pick it up cheap, it's a pretty good deal in my opinion. But Alex says, I hope your weekend's going great. It has been a good weekend. Thanks so much, Alex. Hope yours has been good too. Let me see. Anthony says there's a yellow with black stripes one by him. I always see him in the early mornings. Love the sound. Nice. Early mornings probably the best way to enjoy a car like that. You don't have as much traffic, and as long as the tires are warmed up, you should have pretty good grip. Antonio says, hope everyone had a great weekend. I've been sick since Thursday, but finally feeling better. Well, glad you're feeling better, but sorry that kind of ruined the weekend for you there. That sucks. But yeah, it's going around, a lot of sickness, and it's just that time of year too, But he also says Vipers were always some of my favorite Hot Wheels as a kid. Yeah, that's true. I had a bunch of them too. B. Mitchell said, just back from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. The Military Vehicle Collectors Convention. So all my interesting vehicle sightings are OD green. Nice. Yeah, that's got to be a fun gathering though. And I just saw your email, B. Mitchell, very briefly before I hopped on here. It looks like you saw some old World War II planes as well, so that's cool. Trent Car Guy said there's a red Gen 3 Viper for sale at a dealership not too far from me. Nice. Yeah, all Vipers are fun from what I've gathered. I have not ever driven one, and it's a car that's it seems a little sketchy just from like a handling standpoint and stuff, that it's not a car that I necessarily need to drive. I mean, they're amazing track cars once they're all warmed up and stuff, but on the street, they can be a little dicey from what I've seen if you're actually pushing them at all. But Luke says, Moon Township Honda told me yesterday, mandatory $2,000 over MSRP for Civic Si. Really? Even these days? Yeah, that is pathetic. You're right, Luke. I would laugh and walk right out the door. Oh man, I guess there's still some crazy dealers out there thinking people were born yesterday or something. Joel, thanks for stopping by as well. And I see Ryan, Miles, and William. Thanks, guys, for stopping by too. And Stratus Edge. Good Stick says, hello. Do you think hydrogen combustion engines could be viable for sports cars if electric sports cars don't catch on? It would just have to be a better packaged hydrogen, because like Toyota's racing hydrogen combustion cars, right now, if there's a GR Corolla that's burning hydrogen in one of the Japanese race series, but it takes up the entire backseat and the entire hatch. So they got to make it so that it doesn't need to take up that much space to do decent range. So if we have better ways to store hydrogen, or the electric motors powering, or not the electric motors, because it's not a fuel cell thing, it's just burning it, but it's a huge amount of space. If they can overcome that concern, then that could be viable. It's just that right now, you just need so much of it. It's horribly inefficient to burn it. I mean, it's a cool alternative in a, future where there is zero gas and where e-fuels for some reason aren't a thing. That's I guess an option, like a third choice kind of thing. But yeah, to me, the engines are going to have to get way more fuel efficient to efficiently burn the hydrogen, to make it make any sense at all. It's a fun science experiment. Toyota likes doing stuff like that just to see and kind of, try it out a little bit, but I don't think there's any viability there. If we are going to do hydrogen, I think you're going to definitely see it come in as hydrogen electric. And even that, I mean, again, no one sells hydrogen in the States, basically, as far as the fuel. So, it's going to be decades and decades and decades before any kind of hydrogen stuff, at least on a consumer level, takes any kind of route and has any kind of momentum. It's a nice idea, but hydrogen is also really hard to produce in the combustible form and in the just all the ways. Like hydrogen is it's still kind of like tough to produce it in a clean way all the time as well. They just don't have as much of that production running because, again, there's just not very much demand. So it's just all the investment is in generating electricity right now, not generating the hydrogen there. So there's just a lot of stuff that needs to be worked out. But because we're so far along with the electric thing, and that's already been challenging enough to figure out, I mean, you can imagine how it just, I don't even like bother talking about hydrogen anymore because it's so far-fetched that to me it's a waste of time to even talk about, to be completely honest. I agree it's the most plentiful element on the earth. Like we could, there's a lot of potential there in the far off distant future. Some future civilization can maybe figure it out, but I think it's a long ways away for us, unfortunately, unless there's some giant scientific breakthrough or something that all of a sudden makes it insanely easy to produce cleanly, and we're able to magically package it in a better way. But anyway, moving on here. Danny says, I awkwardly like one of the forgotten GM SS cars. Which SS car you mean to ask? It's the 2006 Chevy Malibu SS and Malibu Max SS. I had the 3900. It had the 3900 V6 and a 4-speed auto, but it will always be liked by me. Gotcha. Yeah, that's one I've never. I remember seeing a few of them out and about, many years ago. I haven't seen one of those in a long time. Never drove one or rode in one or anything. But maybe it was cool. I don't know. One of the last gasps out of the 3900 there, those last few years before, Pontiac got killed off and all that. But I think it was a pretty good V6 though, from everything that I've read about it and overall. And thanks for stopping by, Grand. He says, good evening, everyone. I saw my first Cybertruck yesterday. Nice. I was actually out running around last night, and there was one that merged onto the highway when I was getting onto the highway too, and they took off. Like they went full throttle down the on-ramp and took off. And it was really funny because as we were all kind of headed in the same direction, and we both rolled up to the red light, and I rolled up right next to him in the red light, and he was flying. And I mean, it was fun, I'm sure, but he didn't get anywhere any faster than I did. But it's always funny when that happens. But I'm starting to see them more and more around here too. Especially they look crazy at night because you just see this giant light bar that's really high up, kind of coming towards you, and nothing else. And it's definitely a little wild to see when you're not used to that. But let me see. Good success. So sad for the Top Gear trio stopping after 22 years. I know. I haven't watched the last Grand Tour yet. I was flying back from this event that I was at on Friday night into Saturday morning. And then because I took a red-eye flight, I had like 2 hours of collective sleep maybe to run on yesterday. So I did not have the energy to stay up and watch that yesterday night. And I don't want to do it exhausted. So, and tonight we're doing this, but hopefully tomorrow night I can watch it. I'm very excited, for that one last ride with them. That'll be great. And let me see. Kyle says, my dealer got a 2024 Corvette E-Ray in that cactus green color, 145 grand, but wow, is that really a good looking car? Yeah, that's a great color. And they're putting it on everything, which is also awesome. It's not, exclusive to anything really. And that's great. So it means that, you can have it on your Equinox, you can have it on your Trax, or you can have it on your Corvette. It looks great on all of them, honestly. So yeah, I'm here for cactus green. And Chadwick, thanks for stopping by. And Strata says, speaking of Hot Wheels, the Legends tour rolled by here recently. It was pretty neat. Nice. I didn't realize they were doing I think I might have heard about that, but I don't even know what it consists of or anything. But that's cool. We actually just happened to go to the mall yesterday, and there was like there's a traveling Barbie truck apparently that sells very expensive merch. She was like, "Oh wow, there's a Barbie truck," and kept on walking because it was very expensive. Although maybe we could have flipped it since it's like such rare merch or something, but we decided not to. But Brian, thank you so much for gifting a membership. I really appreciate the generosity there. Happy to see another Brian able to get it there. And Jordan, thank you for the first super chat of the night. He says, "Hey Matt, anyone have any thoughts / experience with the 2016 Honda CRZ? Potential buy for me and Chad." So CRZ, I reviewed, I don't remember the model year, but I reviewed one early days of the reviews on the channel here. Probably like 10 years ago, I reviewed one now. So it wasn't a 2016, but I like the CRZ. I think at the time, I definitely didn't like how slow it felt because back then, I was comparing most of the cars I was reviewing to my BRZ that I had back then. Definitely slower than that. But it's a fun little car. And I think, now looking back on it, it's a car I'd like to revisit. But even without having another go in it, it just, it was a manual hybrid that no one has bothered to do that, even Honda to this day. And, I just feel like that alone has giant appeal. And the fact that, especially in those later years, they offered the supercharger through Honda dealers, I believe. And it was still, I think you're able to get it covered under warranty and stuff. And then that probably fixed all the power problems. I've never driven a supercharged one to see if that's really the case, but it obviously boosted power and made it honestly even cooler, having a supercharger and a manual and a hybrid. It could be a fun little crazy combo. So, I think they're really cool. The only other stuff, obviously there's not a lot of space. It's really small. Even though it's a hatch, there's not much room in the hatch. There are some other drawbacks. And again, you can go back and watch my probably cringy review on that car at this point since it was getting so long ago. But if you want to get a little bit of a tour of what it's like and stuff and my thoughts from a long time ago, you can go watch that if you want. But I think it's probably a really cool car, as long as you don't need something super fast and a fun, different choice, to be somewhere out of the ordinary, and not be the same old that everyone else has. But let me see. Other member questions here. So, where were we? So, Car says, what are some of your favorite upcoming vehicles slated for release in 25 or early 2026? It's hard to say because, I guess there's some things that we've heard rumors about or know about. So I guess I don't know if there's anything in particular I'm insanely excited for in 25 or 26. I think the one thing that I am excited for, arguably, kind of was supposed to be this year, maybe it's next, but is the new Charger. I think the new Dodge Charger has a lot of promise. I think, once everyone gets over, crying about the switch to electric, I think that the real drag racers that do care about performance are going to eventually go for them. And then obviously even just the inline six one, we've seen how amazing two JZs have been. We've seen how amazing the new B58, motor and the new Supra, how that has been amazing, how it's been amazing in the BMW community. Turbo inline sixes are awesome. So putting a turbo inline six, yes, it's not the V8 everyone's used to and wants in the Charger, but that Charger, which that one is coming in 25, so I guess that qualifies for your question. That is going to be a beast. Even the base one is going to be, doing more horsepower and torque than the old 392. And that's the starting point. We're not talking about the other crazy ones, the Banshee coming and all that stuff, which is going to be electric, but there could be higher performing gas ones as well. And, again, the sky's the limit with, turbo inline sixes. Maybe they've locked down the ECU, so it might be kind of hard to tune, but, sooner or later that stuff usually gets figured out. And then, either way, it's just going to be awesome. Yes, it's going to be big, it's going to be heavy, but that's always been the case with Chargers and Challengers. They've just taken that to the next level as well, So that didn't hold them back all these years either. So I think Charger is really the one that'll be exciting to see unfold next year. And maybe it will be a complete dud. Maybe zero people will be interested in it, and maybe it will flop. But I don't think it will. Especially the focus groups that Dodge did and stuff in the past. I heard. I think they talked about this at some point, but it's just, there's, whenever they showed people like what they were doing with the new Charger and all that, seemed like there was a lot of people that were actually excited about it, you know, and we're open to the idea of an electric one or the turbo inline six. So I think that the Charger's in one of those cases where, you know, you hear a very loud minority or maybe even a majority online, but that's not everyone's opinion. You know, and the internet can kind of skew public perception of certain things. And so I think that Charger won't flop as hard as everyone online is making it seem like it will. And I think that that's probably the one that I'm most excited to watch next year. There's other stuff that I'm curious about and hoping that they will be better than the rumor suggests, like the Honda Prelude, which I'm assuming is most likely coming next year. And then, you know, there continues to be rumors about Celica and stuff, and I have no clue if that's the thing or not, but you know, those types of things, again, if we're talking early 2026, maybe going into that could be cool. I think the other stuff I'm really excited for in 2026 is just the enormous surge of new EVs coming. Like the Toyota EVs are supposed to be coming in 2026, the ones that are, you know, really impressive. They're next gen plug-in hybrids that are, you know, basically just have a range extender motor and then have, you know, more electric range. I think they're talking 120 plus miles of range. Those are supposed to come in 2026. You know, those types of things really taking that, you know, to the next generation is going to be exciting to see. For me personally, again, I know all the, you know, alternative fueled stuff isn't exciting to everybody, but for me, following the industry, again, we're following these giant changes and these giant evolutions. And watching this stuff kind of unfold versus the incremental, like, oh, there's a new variant of this thing and it's got 10 more horsepower than the last one and they added a wing on the back. Like that kind of stuff just gets kind of stale to me, you know. I mean, it's cool and it's great. And yes, they improved it by 10 horsepower, whatever, and like whatever, you know, it's fine. But like I think, you know, someone doing this as a, you know, job covering this, you know, it's way more exciting whenever it's these big, crazy changes we've never seen before in automotive history. So that's kind of the stuff I'm excited about the most. And Brian, thank you so much for a super chat as well. He says, have you seen Shaq's Cybertruck, all black and carbon fiber, probably safer now to pedestrians and its owner? I hadn't seen, I didn't know that he had one or was, modifying it or what. That's crazy. So is it true carbon fiber or is it just like a carbon fiber wrap? I mean, if it's actual carbon fiber, like he swapped the body panels, then I agree. That's great because then it's lighter and you're right, safer for pedestrians and the owner. So yeah, I wish everyone would follow Shaq's lead if they have the cash. That'd be great. Lighten up the Cybertruck so I can be a little less terrified whenever they come barreling down with me, hoping they're not using full self-driving. And thank you again, Brian, for the super chat and for letting me know about that. I didn't know. And John Evans Real Estate, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, I saw the new EV Charger yesterday on the freeway. That's awesome. He said it had Daytona on the rear diffuser and Scat Pack on the side. Looked pretty good. Nice. I'm glad you saw one out there. Yeah, they continue to test them. And I'm hoping that they really do play this one safe, you know, as far as really doing the R&D they need to do to make sure they have a solid, good launch of that car and that it doesn't, you know, turn out to be, you know, a recall nightmare right out of the gates. And so that's why they delayed it. You know, we were supposed to have driven it over the summer was what I had heard. And then it got, you know, pushed back a few months. And so I'm hoping to still, you know, drive on some point in the next few months. You know, but we'll see. I think they're going to make sure they, again, take all the time they need to make sure it's right, especially because they know they're going up against people that are already skeptical, already against it. And so the last thing they need is more fuel to the fire of like, oh, look, well, it's bad in this other way as well. So I think they want to make sure it's really solid and, you know, have their best foot forward there, you know, to start. So that's cool. You saw one. That's awesome. And thanks for the super chat again, John. And let me see here. Other member questions. So Danny says, I like that a car from Honda that he likes from Honda is an 88 Prelude. I know the 4WS Preludes are problematic, but I still love them to death. Yeah, I mean, that was such a pioneering car, having four-wheel steering and, you know, a Honda that also wasn't insanely expensive or high tech or anything, was really cool. Yeah. And it's a shame they couldn't have, you know, made that a more mainstream widespread thing, you know, beyond just the Prelude. Because I think four-wheel steering, every single car I ever review that has four-wheel steering, I'm so happy it's got four-wheel steering. It's always better. It's always easier to park. It's always, you know, more dynamic on a back road. It's more stable on the highway. like it's just better in all the ways. Like I see lots of hearts there. Appreciate the love, everyone. So yeah, I mean, four-wheel steer is where it's at. I know it's probably not a super cheap thing to incorporate, but I mean, if they were able to incorporate it in a 1988 Prelude, you know, even a basic system shouldn't be that hard to incorporate in mainstream cars, you would think. But I don't know. You know, I'm just on the outside looking in here. Let me see. So Antonio says, "Hey Matt, guess what EV my wife has been wanting now? Every time she sees one, she likes them. The Mach-E." That's funny. Yeah, I actually we just were getting ice cream tonight, and someone complimented us in the Mach-E too because we took that out, and yeah, they were very positive about the looks of it, and they asked, "Is that your Mustang?" And I was like confused for a second because I still don't think of it as a Mustang, but yeah, it's, you know, I think. And you'll see, I just drove some of the other new EVs here, the Prologue, the ZDX, and I think the Mach-E is really, you know, it was one of the first out there, and I think, you know, I mean, maybe I'm a little biased here, but like, I think that, yeah, there's some that certainly do things better, but I think that the Mach-E kind of still occupies a sweet spot. It's a great appliance. It's a really good car that, you know, is been, for us, knock on wood, flawless. You know, aside from getting that weird rear brake thing that doesn't actually cause any issues aside from just making the rear rotors look like crap. But you know, it's been a really good car. You know, and I don't know, I just, yeah, I think that they're kind of, especially right now, underappreciated because you can pick up a used one under $30,000 with low miles and nice shape. It's a lot of car for under $30,000, slightly used. I mean, a lot of these EVs are enormous bargains if you're open to it right now. This is the time to buy them, but yeah, I think it's currently undervalued in my opinion. But that's funny that your wife's into them now. They're also very safe, you know, and yeah, just good in most of the ways, I'd say. Luke says the sales guy at Moon Township Honda said that Civic Si usually sells before it's off the truck, so that's why mandatory $2,000 markup. I walked out. Good for you. And you know, I would just tell them, well, look, I just looked on Auto Trader and there's a bunch that are for sale elsewhere. You know, that's why I tell people, expand your search radius, get out of, especially, I don't know, Pittsburgh dealers seem to be really dumb for some reason in a lot of ways. Get out of Pittsburgh, go somewhere else, you know, and find a better deal if these sales guys want to be idiots with this stuff. I mean, if they do sell them every time they walk in, someone wants to pay a $2,000 markup, I guess good for them. I don't understand what person would do that, you know, pay that happily, but yeah, it just seems bizarre to me. But it is what it is. Anyway, I see Stratus Edge. Thank you for being a member for 4 months now. I really appreciate that. He says, following up from last week, looks like the new test drive game received mediocre reviews. Anyone still planning on playing it? Yeah, I'll be curious if any of you guys are interested in playing it. You know, I'd love to someday if I ever had the time just to try it out. But yeah, I heard there was some people not into it really. People were just saying it's a skip. But yeah, I'm always willing to give it a try just for the fun of it. But yeah, I'm curious if anyone else has any thoughts on that or had any more experience in the past week or so here. And two, thank you so much for a super chat as well. And thanks for stopping by tonight too. He says, hey guys, sorry my alter ego is going crazy, dropping tracks back to back, talking trash like he's on crack, beats do smack, but rhymes are wig, some about me and some about Matt. Yeah, two's basically dropped the equivalent of a full album of Matt Moran motoring inspired rap tracks on the Discord server, for those of you who are in there. And so definitely give them a listen. There's even a funny roast one, which was great to listen to. And two's honestly, I mean, he writes a lot of lyrics. You're very creative too, and I commend you for that. I am not a creative person, so the fact that you again wrote essentially like a full album's or at least a long EP's worth of stuff just as a fun little thing about the channel is awesome. So kudos to you too. You are a lyric, a very prolific lyricist, I guess is maybe the way to say that. So thanks for stopping by too. And let me see here. Back to the member questions. Cam Jam says, "Hi Matt, do you think a 2017 Accord V6 Coupe Auto would be a good car for my sister? She wants something with some power, coming from a 2004 Mercury Mountaineer V8 with 275,000 miles. Wow, well, good for her. She got that many miles out of that, and it treated her well. 2017 Accord V6 is great. Yeah, I mean, that generation Accord, though, I remember there being a few issues with them. Like, I don't think it was the high point of Honda reliability for those. But I mean, by that, I think that's, yeah, the last model year of that. Hopefully all of the, bugs and, kinks were worked out of it, to make it, a better vehicle. I did the Accord Coupe, I think I did a 2012. I think I did 2014 as well. I've had someone also, I think has a 2016 manual Coupe that I've been waiting to review for years. I just haven't had the time to go out and film it. But yeah, they seem really cool. Again, I know they did a few tweaks there for those last couple of years, so that's why I'm hesitant to, say that it's going to be the same as the ones that I reviewed, but should be, a solid car most likely. Hopefully, check the Carfax, make sure that all the maintenance has been done well and all that. But as long as it's been taken care of well, hopefully it will treat them well. But I don't know enough about that generation Accord from a reliability standpoint to give a solid thumbs up. But if you've done a little bit of research on it and it seems like it's, a solid buy in that case, I think from a dynamic standpoint, it should be a fun, great cruiser with a good amount of power there. And sounds like that would, probably be a pretty good fit for her. Again, if she's used to, especially a 2004 SUV, I mean, anything's going to handle like a sports car that's, newer and more modern than that. So, yeah, hopefully that helps a little bit, but yeah, sorry, I'm not much of an expert there on that. And B. Mitchell says, I got cut off by a Cybertruck for the first time coming home from the convention. Dumb move against a V10 F350 crew cab towing the 26-foot enclosed trailer my Jeep was in. Yikes. Yeah, I guess including all that stuff, you might outweigh a Cybertruck, right? Because they're like 7,500 pounds. So I'm guessing, yeah, especially with a trailer, you probably got the weight advantage there. But yeah, Cybertruck, they again, I really don't want to judge Cybertruck owners. I'm really trying hard to keep an open mind here, but yeah, maybe it was just the full self-driving that was cutting you off instead, because I wouldn't put it past the system to do that. And let me see. Cam Jump says he saw Fisker Ocean yesterday. Thought of you. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's, man, brave souls driving those things around. I commend anyone who got stuck in one of those. I feel bad for them. It's sad that unfortunately really screwed some people. And Jordan, thank you for being a member for 11 months now. He says, as a car reviewer, do you see VR tech playing into YouTube reviews, interior, exterior details of vehicles? Yeah, obviously, it wouldn't be anything that'd be available while driving. Unless there's a way, I'm thinking like Apple Vision Pro or these other headsets where you can record while wearing them. That obviously isn't going to work while driving, but if there are ones that you can wear like a GoPro on top of your head or something and film VR that way, if VR does take off eventually, which I think has a decent chance of, getting somewhere at some point, especially if someone finally comes out with an actually cheap headset that is really good. I think VR would absolutely be the next logical step. And it's something I would certainly embrace if, there was enough demand there and, the demographics suggested that was something that, needed to be served in the market there. It'd be a fun thing to try and be the pioneer of as well. But again, VR is a little tougher than 4K. With like 4K, that can just be like a marketing thing. Like even if you can't appreciate 4K on your device or your TV, it's even just like the fact that if you're clicking on it and you're watching it in the 4K option, even if you can't actually appreciate the improvement, it's a mental boost of like, oh, I'm watching this in 4K. That it can be like an easy marketing thing. Whereas with VR, it's kind of got this split viewpoint kind of thing, so it's not as easy to just have as a marketing thing. Like it has to be like you actually have to be able to watch it on a VR set in order to be able to watch it. So there's a little bit of a extra hurdle there, but I think absolutely that could make a lot of sense. And I think even better would be, if we get to this point of having hyper realistic avatars and all these other things, on a headset, I think, it would make the most sense from a manufacturer standpoint to just, put the cars in there, like, Forza kind of builds, and have people like literally be able to like poke around and find all the cup holders themselves and play around with stuff, and would kind of make reviews, a little less important, at least as far as the informative side of it. Obviously the drive impressions, could still be valuable to some people, but for the large majority of people that just want to know, like, hey, does like my dog fit in the back of this thing or whatever, like, that kind of stuff could obviously be figured out just with like a VR model on a manufacturer site or something, so we'll see how it plays into it all, if it ever does. But I'd love that. I think the more realism I can bring you guys and the more immersive I can make the videos, the better off of an experience that it is. This is kind of why, even why I went to 60 frames per second versus 4K. And I'd like to do both eventually, but 60 frames to me made the videos feel more lifelike. And that's something everyone can appreciate, even if you aren't watching on some super, high resolution screen. And so, yeah, that's, kind of one of the reasons why I did that. So I love the extra realism, and VR would be a great next step for that. That's an interesting question though. Yeah. I haven't heard any other reviewers talking about VR or anything. But it could be an exciting new frontier to maybe jump on, once there is a little bit more widespread adoption there. And Sean, thank you so much for a super chat. He says, my 11-year-old saw her first Cybertruck recently. She said it was the ugliest car she's ever seen. And then whoever drives one must really want attention. Well, it sounds like she is a smart kid you got there. That's awesome. I mean, she's not wrong about the attention. I mean, you can't be an introvert and drive one of those things, it just wouldn't, jive with you. And so, yeah, that's funny though. Thanks for sharing that. And Daniel, thank you so much for a super chat as well. He says, I've always wondered, is it Bethany or Elizabeth? Beth's the name is Elizabeth. Yeah, that is the name, but she's gone by Beth her whole life. And let me see, other member questions here. So Antonio's asking about the CRZs. Good Stick says, thoughts on the SN95 Mustang? These Mustangs are not well liked by a lot of people. Yeah, SN95s, I mean, I think that it's a combination of they're not in vogue right now as much. Everyone's that's into, that kind of generation of Mustang is more into the Fox bodies still. I think SN95s just, they're the wrong type of retro that, like, it was the softer styling and a little more bubbly. I don't think we've gotten to the point where, with Fox body, like, there's modern appeal because it's like hard edged and you can really make them mean and they're squared off, and that's kind of in vogue again. But like this softer, smoother, more happy looking stuff is not in vogue, like you could say of the SN95s there, especially when you're talking about the pre-refreshed ones. Once you go to, the new edge SN95s, and, there's a little bit more of that appeal, I guess you could say there, as far as the boxy squared off thing, a little bit more that they try to do with that one. And I think those have potential. I think it just takes time, especially in the Mustang community, and those just aren't old enough. The same way, I mean, my heart breaks every time I see a trashed 2006 to 2009 Mustang, because it was those retro ones that I love. So I still think they're so cool. And they're at the point where just no one cares about them anymore, and everyone just trashes them, generally speaking. The last ones that are out there are on their last legs, and they're on their fifth owner, who's, not treating them super well typically. And so, it's just that natural curve, and you're going to have the few survivors that are, being cared for in their garages that are going to, be worth big money someday whenever they're more appreciated than they are right now. And so I think with the SN95s, we just haven't gotten there yet. I think it will come eventually, but I think as of right now, it's a great pickup. If you're looking for something nice and cheap with a V8 to get into the Mustang community, it's a great, entry point, and you're getting in again before all the hype starts for that, like there was for the Fox body. I'm not saying they're going to ever be as popular as Fox body. It's hard to guarantee, because people's interests are fickle and fads are fickle, so you can't predict them perfectly. And it's sometimes stuff that is the exact opposite of what you would expect that turns out to be popular. So who knows what the future of SN95 will be, but I think there's if nothing else, it's a nice cheap way to get into a Mustang. And it's a fun car. I mean, they're definitely sloppier with the handling. They're slow by modern standards. They're harder to drive, heavy clutch, heavy shifter that's imprecise. I mean, they're not objectively good cars if you're looking at it for the 2024 lens, but it still can be fun. So I think that's kind of the takeaway there. Hopefully that that's some good thoughts there for you. Thanks for the question, Good Stick. And Jess says, favorite car for 25, 26, Matt, how about the K4 hatchback? K4 is going to be a really cool little car. Yeah, especially the hatch is great to see that they're doing that again. I wish that they would do more with the powertrain. I hope maybe they do a K4 GT, because otherwise I can only get so excited about I think maybe, did they say they're doing a GT line version, right? So would that be the 201 horsepower, 1.6 turbo thing? I mean, that's fine. I don't know. Especially, I don't think there's going to be a manual or anything. It's just, it'll be a nice, competitor to the Civic hatch and those types of vehicles. But to me, there's no enthusiast version, so I'm not going to be too excited about it until there is. And Raphael says, this week's car sighting, his and hers Supras, one black, one white, driving together with almost matching plates. Nice. That's very cool. And that's got to be so fun to be able to share with your significant other and cruise around, together kind of share the experience in a different way than just riding the car together. So that's cool. Zachary says, Williams asking, hey, Matt, what do you think? Do you think Kia will bring back the Kia Stinger? Any news on an electric Stinger? Great question, Will, and thanks for highlighting that, Zachary. So it seems like Kia's not going to bring back the Stinger. They kind of, I thought they actually said this. If not, they kind of implied that EV6 GT was kind of a spiritual successor to Stinger. There's also been rumors in the automotive news circle about a new Halo vehicle coming for Kia. It's going to be electric, that will have their next generation platform, faster charging. And I thought the number was 700 some horsepower potentially for that. So maybe there's something there. I don't know. It's hard to say. So I think Kia right now is focusing on their electric rollout with, their SUVs and the bread and butter kind of stuff, the K4, others like that. Next gen Telluride is going to be up here, I think, fairly soon. So there's those types of things that, are more important for the company right now than the Stinger, which unfortunately the Stinger, I don't want to say it's a failure, but it wasn't a giant sales success. So with a vehicle like that, you can't really expect a successor. You can't really expect the company to be excited about something like that if it didn't, take off like wildfire. I mean, I think he is probably happy with it. I think they look back on it with pride, but it didn't sell a ton. And I think honestly, it's one of those vehicles that people started appreciating when it was already too late and they were already winding down production. People didn't adopt them as fast as they needed to actually keep the Stinger around for a second generation, unfortunately. But they're great cars, and maybe we'll see that electric Stinger someday. Cam Jump says, went back and looked at the movie where you said you and Beth met. Definitely an interesting film. Yeah, well, I apologize for the hour and a half waste that you had there, but hopefully you were able to spot us a few times there. Again, we're in a bunch of the movies, so all those party scenes and stuff. It was funny, but yeah, sorry for the bad movie experience, but hopefully you got a few cringy laughs out of it at least. That's funny, Cam. And Dylan says, evening, everyone. Gonna enjoy my weekly whiskey while I listen. Anyway, earlier today, I saw a clean Mazda B3000 was practically show ready. Wow, that's impressive. That's something like that is that clean. That's cool. Yeah, that's impressive. And enjoy the whiskey there. And Rafi says, woohoo, hey, Matt, I missed the last couple, but rewatched them. Great streams. Thanks, Rafi, and thanks for stopping by on this one. Happy it was able to work out for you here timing-wise tonight. And let me know if you have any other questions since you're able to interact live here. And Danny says, hey, Matt, a couple weeks ago, I talked about my aunt out in Washington State with the dying first-gen Nissan Leaf. My uncle has a Dodge Ram Cummins, forgot the year. She had a GMC Yukon before that, and she's about 5'2", and she was sitting so close to the steering wheel. If she crashed that thing, my dad said the airbag would have killed her. The Yukon said bye for the Leaf. Great. That's quite the swap going from a Yukon to a Leaf. That's wild. And yeah, you definitely don't want to sit too close to steering wheels. That is, I mean, 5'2", I know you got to do what you got to do, but that's, yeah. I don't know how that works for people that need to sit really close to the wheel as far as safety goes. I mean, I'm pretty sure airbags are supposed to deploy intelligently based on seating position, at least in cars with power seats. I thought that was something that factored in, maybe not. Um, I'm not sure how that all works. That's kind of an interesting thing I wouldn't mind learning more about someday. But anyway, glad she's okay there, and yeah, hopefully it never went off on her. But yeah, the Leaf, the Leaf is hopefully she can get a new one here so that her dying first gen can get a rest. And let me see. Kyle, thank you so much for gifting 5 memberships there. I really appreciate it. Happy to see everyone was able to grab those. And thank you again, Kyle, for your continued generosity. I know we all really appreciate it. And Jordan, thank you for another super chat. He says, make sure to clip my VR question just like you did with the AI vehicle question in the past. You'll be ahead of the game in the future. Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, that's one. I don't know if I want to like broadcast that because, I mean, that could be a good edge for sure. Again, assuming it's not super expensive to film, you know, the VR kind of thing. I don't even know. I think you can just piece together VR with like 2 GoPros or something, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I don't do those clips anymore for the live streams. I may try a new AI editing thing that kind of grabs a live stream and just basically generates a bunch of clips and just through AI out of it automatically, so I don't have to, you know, comb through these and do all that myself. So I may return to doing those at some point if I ever have the time to play around with that software and figure out if it actually, you know, is worth anything to actually use that. But I haven't done any of those clips in a while just because they just didn't get enough views. Honestly, it just wasn't, you know, I got so much stuff going on and they weren't very evergreen either. So it wasn't something that continues to get views or anything. So I just decided to give up on that for now. But it was a good idea. And I think it still is a good idea. I just have to get back to finding another way to do that a little bit easier and quicker. Luke says, Cochrane seems to be a nice dealership. Yeah, I think I've heard some mixed things about them. I bought my BRZ from that Cochrane Subaru there in Monroeville, and they were nice. And I took my Legacy GT for service there a while back. Obviously, back when I had that vehicle, and they were always pretty good. Again, it's been a long time now. It's been a decade since I've been over there, so I don't know if they've changed or not. But yeah, there's not a whole lot of good ones around here, though, unfortunately. Good Six says, do you think Tesla can share the full self-driving with other car companies like how they shared their charging stations? They seem to value their robotics and AI and robotaxi compared to individual car ownership. I mean, I guess they could if the other cars have all the hardware that Tesla needs to see in order to do full self-driving. If it's, you know, since it's just camera based, they don't even use radar anymore, you know? So, I mean, as long as but see, I feel like for it to work properly and be properly calibrated, you'd have to have the cameras in the same position that they are in a Tesla. I feel like that's kind of a little hard to swap over. I mean, maybe it's easier than it sounds, but to me, that seems like that'd be a little bit more of a challenge. The charging stations, I mean, and this is also, I mean, if Tesla really likes their full self-driving, even though I think it's crap, but if they actually are proud of it, you know, that's one of their exclusives and one of their advantages that, you know, they kind of have. The charging station thing, the only reason why we have access to Tesla superchargers is because of the way the infrastructure bill was written. Like, they get a ton of government money for opening those up. If there was none of that government money, they would not open that up, because that was their their biggest and best advantage, was the charging network. The only reason why, I mean, it's just a money play. That is it. And I guess you could say the same thing potentially with full self-driving, except that involves actual deals with companies buying stuff and paying for stuff. And there's going to be some more negotiations there versus being like, hey, look, free money from the government and grabbing that. So, you know, I think that's the difference between the charging stations and the other Tesla stuff. But, you know, I mean, never say never. We'll see what ends up happening there with the robo-taxi and all that. But I think a lot of other companies wouldn't touch full self-driving with a 10-foot pole, even if it was free. it's just because it's not good, and it's actually a liability, I'd say, as we've seen already many times before. So yeah, I don't think that's too appealing to too many companies, but I could be wrong. And Hugo says, finally got my membership back. Awesome, Hugo. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for stopping by. And we were just talking actually in the last stream about Z3s, and I was mentioning your Z3 that you had, and I'm hoping to, review that at some point, but someone was asking about them. So Hugo is the Z3 owner. I don't remember who asked the question about the Z3 last week, but if you're in here, you can have a little chat with Hugo here in the comments, and I'm sure he'd be happy to give you any of his ownership impressions. He'd be, I'm sure, a wealth of knowledge on the Z3 there for anyone that's curious. Again, if that person's in the live here tonight. But thanks for stopping by, Hugo. And Q says rhymes are whack. Sorry, you had some good rhymes in all your little videos there you've posted. Let me see. Danny says, I saw a couple people have K-swap CRZs, which is interesting. Nice. That would make it a whole lot more fun. That could be a blast. That's the way to do it. B. Mitchell says the F-150 with trailer scales at 13,500. We'd have one. All right, fair enough. Yeah, that's glad you had weight on your side there. Danny says the Ram Cummins my uncle owns, I think is early 2000s 24 valve. Nice. I'm sure it's probably still running great. I feel like those old Cummins were pretty reliable. Rafi says I recently traveled to Australia to visit my cousins. That's awesome. I've always wanted to go to Australia. I'm really jealous. He says car spotting I did was see a handful of R34s and lots of diesel Land Cruisers and Ranger Raptors. I wish we got the diesels here. Yeah, me too. But man, those R34s, seeing those things around would be such a thrill. Every time I see one at SEMA, even, it's just like, holy crap, it's an R34. It's always so cool. That's I'm sure you loved Australia, but yeah, feel free to share any other Australia impressions if you'd like as a follow-up here. But it's be an amazing place to like retire to someday or something. It seems so beautiful there. And Rafi also says, also they have an RSQ3. I don't know why we don't get them here. Yeah, that's what I've always wondered about too. Yeah, they just did a refresh on it, I think, last year. And I remember in a weekly update complaining about, like, why did we not get the RSQ3 here? You would think if they can justify the RS3, you could definitely justify the RSQ3, right? Because especially here in America, it's like, oh, it's higher off the ground. Take my money. So, I mean, you would think that would be a home run. I don't know why they don't. It's a really good question. I was just with an Audi rep this week too. I wish I would have thought to ask him that. I mean, they don't ever say anything about why, any of the real behind the scenes stuff typically, but would have been a fun question just to volley out there and see what the answer was. And Austin says, hey Matt, did you catch the Grand Tour finale? I cried grown man tears at the end. I haven't had a chance to watch it, unfortunately. I mentioned this a little bit earlier too. I was on this drive event this week, filmed a lot of really cool reviews. You can check out the member schedule for some of the ones that are coming up here at the end of this month. It's going to be cool. But because of that, I was flying home Friday night on a red eye. And so I wasn't able to watch it on the flight home. And then since I only got like 2 hours of sleep that red eye night, I wasn't up for watching it last night. And then tonight I'm doing this. So I'm hoping tomorrow night to watch it. But yeah, it's going to be, I'm sure, an emotional, end of the road for them. And it's going to be tough for sure. At least we have all their other great shows to enjoy as well. So, we can still watch the three of them, even if it's not together. Maybe Mitchell says, make that F-350. It's set up as a dedicated trailer dragger, has a custom rear rack rather than a pickup box, and it's a 4x4. Nice. Sounds like quite the rig there. Sean says, to anyone wondering, my daughter's favorite car is the G86, but she wants me to hold on to my Scion TC until she starts driving because she thinks she'll get it. Nice. Well, that could be a great starter car if you are, willing to, hand over the keys. That would be a really fun little starter car. I've always loved the TCs. And that's cool. She likes the G86 too. It sounds like she's going to be, quite the awesome enthusiast when she's driving age. That's awesome. Let me see. Danny says, this is not correlated at all, but my friends make fun of me for this. But I listen to 80s music a lot, and I'm a 16-year-old high school junior, and I hear people think about it. I like what I do. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm out of touch, but I thought that like 80s stuff was like really in vogue right now, especially with like Gen Z. Maybe again, maybe I'm just an uninformed millennial here, but I thought that was like in vogue right now. So I would have assumed that you saying that means you were doing what every other Gen Z, high schooler and stuff we're doing right now, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, 80s music's great. I love 80s music. 80s on 8 on Sirius XM. I listen to it a lot. And Good Six says the Top Gear trio got an entire generation into cars, especially with all the cool cars that came out in the 2000s, thinking of Carrera GT and Enzo. Absolutely. It was a great period for, car evolution, things getting so much faster in the 2000s, really. And you're right. They were one of the, big things why I, wanted to be a car reviewer. I mean, I loved cars before Top Gear, but, they kind of were one of the things that inspired me. Like, I want to do that for my job. And here we are, so they're very inspiring, and it's impressive how they really did. I mean, I'd be curious, if there was some alternate timeline of like what would have happened if Top Gear never was on. Would we have the thriving car scene we have today? I'm sure something else probably would have, hopped in, but would you have had those personalities and that those reasons to watch whenever typically, you have the people that watch Motor Week and, things like that. But I think Top Gear really took it to the next level of making it really fun, really crazy, and more mass appeal. Obviously, you have Fast and Furious and stuff like that. I think got a lot of us into cars as well. I think for me, like Fast and Furious really supercharged my love of cars even more than Top Gear did, because it came first and I was more impressionable and young whenever, Fast and Furious came out. But, I think that it'd be interesting to see how many less people would be into cars if it wasn't for Top Gear, especially in Europe. I think we all, as car enthusiasts, are indebted to them for their years of great fun and service to the car community. And Truck and Car Guy says, hopefully with popular channels like Chris Fix building and maintaining one, people's opinion may change for the better. As far as, sorry, I must have been in reference to something. The SN95s, maybe. That's true. Chris is like, one of the few people that, has one and is really building it up. So, maybe that's going to try to change the appeal of them a little bit more. I always thought the SN95s were cool, though, so, hopefully he kind of helps lift those vehicles up. It's strange that, like, Ford doesn't give him any, like, support, like, you would think Ford would be excited about his promotion of the Mustangs and stuff. And, I don't know all the details of that. I just know that, like, Ford doesn't sponsor his like drift car or any of that stuff. And I feel like they should totally be super excited about that. Like, they picked up Adam LZ and they're super into him and all this stuff. You would think they would have embraced Chris a lot harder. He's a great guy. I know him very well. I'm very fortunate to say that. I'm able, he's someone I've talked to, a decent bit, and he's a really cool guy. That's just like, it's a shame that Ford hasn't, been more supportive of him, honestly. Anyway, Joe says, what's your family dream vehicle? Money, no object. Money, no object, Ferrari Puro Songway. So if we really want to get crazy, that would be it. A V12 powered SUV, perfection. Something a slight bit more, like something I wouldn't have to worry about every time I went out somewhere. I'd say Audi RS6 Avant probably is another, one that's a little, more, I guess, normal. Those are probably the top two, though. Let me see. I see Danny talking to Brianna there about the 80s music there. Let me see. Oh, sorry, I missed the super chats here coming in. Apologies, everyone. So Lord Commander Manny, thank you so much for your super chat. He says, I just leased Volkswagen Cross Sport in red and very happy. Nice. Yeah, I'm actually slated to get a Volkswagen Cross Sport here this week for a week, a loaner on the refresh version here. The Cross Sport was fine. I think it was a really nice, large, midsize SUV, and especially with so much of that segment being very meh right now, I'm thinking about, Passport and stuff like that, just being a little underwhelming, Murano, Edge, all those very dated vehicles. I think Volkswagen Cross Sport actually compares pretty favorably these days with a lot of those. I don't love everything Volkswagen does from a setup kind of standpoint, but I think especially if the deal is right, I think Cross Sport can make a lot of sense. And I'm excited to spend another week with one here soon. But I'm happy that you're enjoying yours, and Yeah, hope it treats you well. It's awesome. Congrats on the new car. It's always fun, regardless of what you get to. It's just having a new car is always great. And Jordan, thank you for the super chat. But I see the message was retracted. So if you want to follow up as well, I see you have another super chat. But if you want to ask your other question there as well, feel free. But thank you, Jordan, for another super chat. He says Ford show powertrain / engine incorporated into other Ford products of the past / current. So if you're talking Yamaha motor show, like the was that first gen show, right? Or is it first and I think it's just the first gen, right? Or first and second. Then I think third gen is like the newer one that's completely different. But I mean, I've never driven one. I knew someone who had one that loved it many, many years ago until it unfortunately got totaled. But shows are really cool. And I mean, putting that motor and other things would have been great. It's a shame Ford didn't do more of that. It's amazing how like the few times Yamaha gets involved with the automotive industry, it's like always amazing. Like Yamaha is who developed the exhaust, I think, for the Lexus LFA. I think they actually helped develop the motor as well, if I remember correctly. And then, the Yamaha again motor in the show. And there's a few other things too, where like I feel like Yamaha needs to like actually just make cars on their own because I think they can make some really sick stuff just based on the few little, attempts at components that they've done in the past. But as far as, I mean, I think the show powertrain would have been great and everything because it came with a manual. It was a high revving, fun little motor. And I think it would have made everything in the Ford lineup instantly better at that point in time. And I thank you again, Jordan, for the super chat there. Getting back to the member questions here. So let me see. Where were we? Antonio says, what movie was where you and Beth met? So that was called Not Cool. It was a movie that Shane Dawson made. Again, very cringy. I actually don't recommend watching it because I think it's a waste of an hour and a half. But if you want to just watch the party scenes or fast forward through it or whatever, just to see Beth and I on camera, you can check it out if you'd like. I'm hoping it's free to stream somewhere. Definitely don't pay to watch it. But if it's somewhere available for free, you want to kill a little bit of time. If you're super bored, go for it. And again, you can go watch the video where I talked about I can't remember, I think it was called like Fun Fact. I used to be a movie extra or something like that. You can see all the movies that I was in. I went through all of them. And, if you're ever wanting to be like, wow, there's Matt in the background of a movie, you can always pick one of the variety of movies that I've been in. And, you can see my 3 seconds of highly obscured fame that no one else paid attention to. But let me see. Raphael says, I like the Stinger. Someone at my job had a yellow one, but the G70 was always my preferred choice. It feels smaller. Yeah, I mean, G70 is smaller, so that it definitely made it more dynamic. It was definitely the sportier handling of the two on a back road, smaller wheelbase, I think, as well, so there was definitely more dynamic qualities. And also G70 in that first couple of years was offered with a manual, which they never did in the Stinger. I think that would have really helped Stinger as well. They just never did it. And I don't know why, because again, G70 offered it, but regardless, G70 is great too. PM says, thanks to Kyle for the membership there. He says, by the way, the Discord join link in the members channel is no longer valid from 4 months ago. Okay. I'll have to do another member post then. And if you want a PM as well, you can send me a message or DM wherever you'd like, and I can send you a new link just manually as well. That might be the best way to go about it, but I also don't want people finding an old link and having it not work. So maybe I'll just do another post here with a fresh link. Thanks for letting me know about that. Someone else was trying to get into the Discord server this week as well, and they weren't able to. So I need to send a message to the person that set up the Discord server. Six Licks is the one who did. I don't know if he's in here tonight, but we have to figure out. Some people are having issues with like the Discord server recognizing they're actually a member of the channel because that's supposed to all be automated. But definitely send me a message, PM. Though in the meantime, I can just send you a link. Once I'm done here, and I can, hopefully I can help you get in there a little sooner. And sorry, it's not working just yet. And Good Six says, what is one driving habit you see other people doing that makes you angry as it's unsafe for everyone around them? I mean, I think just phone usage is the main one. I mean, even just yesterday, I saw some dude just straight up scrolling, like staring down in his lap and scrolling too, like while he's driving. And, I mean, phones are the biggest problem, right now. this is why it's great when people buy manuals, because it forces you to, not be on your phone as much, and be paying attention and having to have situational awareness of what gear you need to be in and all that kind of stuff, which a lot of people don't, even have those things enter their brain, if you're in an automatic and you're just zoning or whatever. So I think that's the main thing. I mean, I get it, every once in a while we all need to, check something or do something or whatever, but it's, obviously one of those things, it's better just to let people wait, if you're getting texts or whatever, and just that's the main thing. Outside of that, there was something else too the other day that it was really grinding my gears, and I can't remember what it was that I saw someone doing. Yeah, I don't remember. I think the only other thing that that definitely, and I know that in certain places, this actually probably an unpopular opinion. But even though the science says that whenever you're merging, you're supposed to do the zipper thing of going all the way to the end and then trying to get in. To me, I still can't get it out of my head that it just feels like you're cutting in line. And I'm a very much a rule follower, orderly kind of person. And so whenever I see people trying to cut in, especially, if it's someone who genuinely looks confused and they're like, oh no, what am I doing? But whenever that the person knows what they're doing and they're going to the very end and they're aggressively trying to cut in, or they're getting mad when you're not letting them in or whatever, again, it's probably not an unpopular opinion, but even if the science says that that's faster, it's just I just want people to take their turn and be fair, and just taking turns is something that society seems to have forgotten, this elementary school lesson of taking turns. I mean, I see it all the time at stop signs, four-way stop sign, the amount of people that simply the person right in front of them just went and it's my turn, and then they go, the amount of people that are just selfishly wanting to gain 5 seconds jumping a stop sign. Yeah, as you can see, that gets me worked up too. Really, you're gonna save 5 seconds just to be a jerk, I mean, it's just yeah, so those types of things. I think just common courtesy. Again, it just, I'm a rule follower. I'm a very courteous, self-aware kind of person, and I just, I'm always going the extra mile to try and, be nice and courteous and all that. And then whenever people just do not give a care for anyone but themselves, that just never sits well with me. So those are probably the main things there. And Sean says, I hope airbags don't kill you if you sit too close. I have very short legs and arms for my height, so I always have to move my seat up. I'm 6'2" with a 29 inseam. Yeah, I'm not, this is something that's actually worth doing research on, because surely there's got to be some safeguards in place. I just don't know what they are. I think also airbags stop inflating when they sense resistance. I think, it's so fast, it does whatever it does, but I feel like there's still some intelligence there to what is happening, especially with these smarter, next generation airbags, not talking about the, stuff from the 90s or whatever, but I feel like there's some intelligence there for sure. But yeah, this is an excellent idea for a video. I was just hanging with humble brag. I was just hanging with Jason Fensky this week of the Engineering Explained channel, and that's something I should bring up to him and be like, have you ever done a video on airbag deployment? Might not be the sexiest topic, but I don't know. I think that could have very widespread appeal of being is it a risk? Is it not? And he's really good about digging in and finding all the facts and pestering, companies for all the details on this stuff. So that would be a fun topic. At least for me, it'd be an interesting topic, but maybe not for mass appeal like he often needs, obviously, with his channel being gigantic. But it's a very important point for sure, Sean. Dylan says, regarding the Stinger, can't remember which year it was, but it was reported that it was a 6-to-1 ratio in sales between Telluride and Stinger in Telluride's favor. Absolutely. I mean, Telluride was a runaway success from the very beginning for everybody. I mean, with the Hyundai Palisade also just doing insanely well. So yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. Honestly, I thought the ratio would be even worse for Stinger than that. I'm impressed they actually sold one for every 6 Tellurides. I would have assumed it would have been one Stinger for every 30 to 50 Tellurides, honestly. So yeah, but Yeah, it's a shame they didn't do better. Rafi says, were you excited that the AVAs returned? Looked like a fun group to be with. Absolutely, yeah. So anyone who is not aware, on Instagram, I just reposted the story of I think Sophion posted of Redline AVAs for this past week, and it was great. I mean, because we hadn't done that since 2019. And so it was really great to get the whole group back together. I mean, these are people I see, on a monthly basis most of the time anyway. Aside from Jason Fensky, that's usually a little bit more rare. I see him maybe a couple times a year if I'm lucky. But the others, I mean, I see like Mason and Drew from Car Confections. It's like we always happen to be like on the same flights, on the same waves of the same programs for a lot of this stuff. So like, I feel like I see Mason and Drew at least once a month, mostly, more often than that, depending on the month. And Sophion, I'm very thankful I get to see him, on a regular basis with, again, just all the overlap on all these events. And that's one of the best things about these events. And it certainly helps lessen the blow, even if these videos sometimes don't do super well. It's like, well, at least I had fun hanging out with, my buddies. Because again, I'm so busy. I don't have a lot of time to hang out with other friends here in Pittsburgh. So it's like, well, I'm working and this is part of a work trip. And then I get to have fun and hang out with, my, work friends, I guess you could say, who are just friends. And it's really great. So yeah, getting us all together was awesome. Unfortunately, we didn't do any collabs. That's the one thing. We were also busy getting all of the content we needed to get. And like Sophion came in a little bit later because he was on another event, and same with Roman from TFL. So unfortunately, everyone just kind of was so busy because we had to film 11 cars in 2.5 days, pretty much. Actually, kind of 2 days mostly. Me, I got 2.5 because I came in a little bit earlier, but basically 2 days to film 11 car reviews. It's a lot. I know, you see a 20-minute video and you think it takes 20 minutes. Some people do, but it's hours to do, these videos. And so we all worked really, really hard and just didn't have time to do any kind of collabs, unfortunately. But we got to have some fun meals and chat a little bit there. And so it was great to do that. But hopefully maybe next time, if everyone isn't quite as busy, we can have some time to do some fun collab videos for sure. Because it's so much fun. We all get along so well. It'd be cool to do something like that. But let me see. Danny's listing off his favorite 80 songs there. Missing You, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, and Take Me Home Tonight. Yep, classics for sure. And let me see. Let's see, Sean's weighing in as well. Mike says, do you think the ID Buzz will be a flop? I don't know. I don't know what the pre-orders are like for those just yet. I mean, I think some people, if you're referring to maybe like the pricing of it, I know some people were upset by how high it was. But if you look at EV9, I mean, it's selling now. I think certainly because there's a lot of incentives on it. But, I expect it to be about as popular as EV9. I think that's reasonable to, say from an expectation standpoint. I think, it's going to be one of those things that also, I think it's going to pull a lot of people off the sidelines that don't pay attention to the car world, which means it's going to be a slower adoption rate. So I think once you start to see people see these things out and about and they're like, what? They did a new Volkswagen bus? I think, it might be slow going initially after the first wave of early adopters who are on top of things that, have been chomping at the bit for years. Once they all have theirs and they're out actually driving them around, I think that's when you'll see the mass adoption start a little bit more. But I mean, especially if Volkswagen's okay to do some discounts eventually down the road, I think it could, do pretty well for them. I think, yes, it's 70 grand loaded with a Volkswagen interior. It's a little tough, for sure. I'm hoping to, be impressed with it whenever I review one, hopefully before the end of this year. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it does, but I don't think it's gonna be a flop. It might be lukewarm reception, but I don't think it's going to be totally cold. I think it'll be, there's a lot of people that are excited about it. And so, yeah, I think it should do okay for them, I think. And they seem like they're putting some marketing money behind it. There's been that Volkswagen commercial that's been going around that's been showing the front end of it, and so making people aware that it's coming. And so hopefully, that helps them as well, because it seems like they're actually going to have a good marketing budget around it. And Goth Rocker says, on PA Turnpike this weekend, saw 4 of my favorites. An Aston Martin DBS, nice, I'm jealous, and a DB12, and a Superfast, and a Ferrari Roma. I win the lottery, Ferrari and Aston Martin will be in my fleet. You and me both. We are very like-minded, Goth Rocker. Those are some of my dreams as well. That would, wow, you, yeah, man, I'm very jealous. You saw you saw all the awesome stuff this weekend, man. You know how, or the PA Turnpike was popping. That's sweet. Man, I get excited when I see just like one Aston Martin, which to me is like I see like one every couple of months, and I'm like super excited. So man, that was you really got lucky there. That's awesome. Alex says, what do you think is your best guess as to why Subaru killed the STI? Mine is because a 50 grand STI wouldn't sit well with buyers. Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, kind of a complicated scenario. I think why they initially killed it, again, we got to keep in mind, we're talking about, what was it, 2022 when they killed it, or announced its departure. When they were saying that was whenever EV adoption was through the roof. They, we're thinking there was going to be heavier fines coming from, not only the Euro stuff, but also here in the States before all that stuff got loosened up. But they were, staring down massive push to go EV, massive demand for EVs. And if you read the press release for when they canceled the STI, they said, something about at the end how STI could return for the next generation in 2028 or something like that, or just for a next generation, which everyone kind of assumed would be around 2028. And now we see how things have shifted around. I talked about this not too long ago as well in a past live, like, now the way the landscape has changed, everyone's slowing down with everything. Subaru and Toyota even now are saying they may push back some of their EVs a little bit as well, or just, I think, lessen the production expectations for them. There may be some reconsideration, especially since I think that car was killed in the 11th hour. I think they have a completed STI sitting somewhere in a bunker. And if they are willing to go through, federalizing it and stuff, I mean, I think they can do that pretty easily. Now, maybe it's something that they're past the point of no return and they can't do it at this point for whatever reason. And this could be why you're seeing TS, which is essentially an STI without the diff and the extra power. That kind of is, I think, what you could have expected from STI is the adaptive dampers finally, the obviously new platform and all that. And I think TS is, just one tune and a rear and a center locking diff away from being an STI. So, I don't know, maybe that's also their way of filling it out of how desperate are people for something like this. Like if they have a ton of people that buy TS, then maybe it's like, okay, people aren't opposed to whatever the TS is going to cost. I'm sure at that point it's already almost 50 grand for one of those. Then maybe they'd make the leap. But I don't think the STI being 50 grand would have put people off that much when you look at, again, what everything else costs that's, comparable. I mean, you could argue GR Corolla is, basically a spiritual successor to the STI, same kind of power levels, same, changing diff and all that. And those are 40. So I could see some people being like, well, there's you can't compete with GR Corolla. But, I think that there still would have been STI diehards that would have still paid the extra money for it and probably would have made it worthwhile, because STI was never sold in giant numbers. It was always the WRXs were the main movers, So, yeah, it's, again, like I said, it's a very multifaceted thing and we can speculate all night. I mean, I could at least as far as various scenarios. But my best guess is, they just thought, no one's going to want this because everyone's wanting EVs and the EVs are already faster than an STI, which would just look old and antique, in 2022. Now we see, this enduring love for gas stuff and we see everyone kind of pumping the brakes a little bit on some of the EV rollouts. And so I still think that they could kind of change course. They still have a few years, even if they were planning 2028 for a debut. You still could get 3 good years in there here with, something, or maybe even in 2026, do it for 2 more years or something. I don't know, but it's also so hard to rationalize what Subaru does because so much of the stuff they do, in my opinion, doesn't make sense from the outside looking in, at least. And so, we can try and apply rational thought to all this stuff, and then, we see them not doing a turbo Crosstrek Wilderness. We see them not doing a turbo Forester Wilderness. We see them not doing a Baja, which would have been a great Maverick competitor and printed money. Just so many low-hanging fruit they could have done. that they just choose to phone it in and not do that stuff and just stick with what they know and be very conservative with their product rollout. So yeah, I don't know. It's another one of those head scratches alongside everything else. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to hack the back end off of an Outback and call it Baja, just like they did last time, and take away a few Maverick sales to the Subaru loyal. I mean, it's just, I don't know. Anyway, I won't go down the whole rabbit hole of my gripes with Subaru, but it's just hard to rationalize it, honestly, I think. And Jordan, thank you so much for the other super chats there. He says, what is EcoBoost? Anything to do with efficiency? EcoBoost is just turbo. That was just their way of saying you get better fuel economy with the turbo, so therefore it is an EcoBoost. And yeah, so whether it's any more efficient than a V6 comes down to how you drive it. Like any turbo, if you're sucking down gas going into the boost all the time, you're not going to have any kind of benefits really, and oftentimes worse fuel economy. But yeah, it's just that it's nothing. I mean, it was just going down in displacement and it's just the name for the turbos essentially. And also, Jordan, thank you for another super chat. He says vehicles that feature perfumes, a planetary waste. I mean, I don't know about a planetary waste, but I mean, the perfume thing, I mean, for the certain clientele that buy those vehicles and, don't like, unpleasant smells, or I don't know, whatever the case is, just want their car to smell a certain way. I mean, I think they wouldn't do it if people didn't like it, like in the Mercedes S-Class and stuff like that. So I feel like, it's one of those things that's led by consumers. And if it was a stupid idea, then consumers, would say that, and then they would quit doing it and save themselves a few bucks. So because they don't really ever charge extra for that in most vehicles, it just usually is something that they advertise like, hey, it has this. So I don't think it's anything that's, too unpopular in those vehicles, but I could be wrong. I know nothing about demand for perfumes in vehicles. It'd be a fun thing to see, what is the actual impressions on that from buyers. And also, Jordan, thank you for another super chat. He says, Mercedes started with planes. Why no aircraft now? I mean, the aircraft business is just tough. I mean, I guess honestly, anyone could come in and make a better plane than Boeing these days. But like, I don't know. Yeah, I'd love to see. I'm sure even every airline would love to see, someone else, take the dumpster fire of Boeing and do something as a good alternative, just so Airbus has somebody to compete against that actually can, make solid planes. I know that, Boeing isn't that bad, but I've completely lost trust in them myself. But, I mean, Honda does like the Honda Jet, but outside of that, there's no other car companies really, aside from, Rolls-Royce engines, but there's no other car companies that really do anything in the plane space that I know of. And, even the Honda Jet, it's tough. They made a much more fuel efficient private jet. And you would think that would sway every person that operates a private jet to want to go for it. I'm not sure, I don't know enough about jets to, do an intelligent comparison of, why Honda Jet doesn't sell better than it does. But, it's been an uphill battle for them, it seems, So if you have something that's already going to save you thousands of dollars on fuel costs and people are still like, it's just probably going up against the names that are out there, whether you're talking private or commercial. It's just really tough. So yeah, I mean, maybe someday the next level, after they're done draining all these billionaires of every dollar they have for these one-off cars that aren't really that desirable, maybe once they're done with that, maybe planes will be the next frontier, and they'll say, hey, you want a really fancy Cessna, here you go, or something. I don't know, but yeah, it's a good question. I mean, same thing. I mean, a lot of these companies, had the aviation pass. Subaru's another one. Even BMW. There's a bunch of them. So yeah, I don't know. It's another great question. Thanks, Jordan, for asking and for the super chats there. Let me see. Rafi says, Australia is really beautiful. I definitely recommend going. The beach is nice. The sand is clean. You can see the ocean floor with how clear it is. Also, our money is worth a lot. You'll be a king. Interesting. I didn't know that the exchange rate was that favorable. That's an interesting new fact. Thanks for sharing. I know, like, for people that live there, like, they've super high income taxes and stuff, but That's cool that as a foreigner, the transfer rate's good. That's kind of encouraging. So yeah, I'd love to get there someday. Maybe I'll save up enough freaking flyer miles I can fly the family there someday. Thanks for sharing, Rafi. Glad you had a great time. Gotham Marker says, I agree, Matt. I get sick when I see a 2005 to 2014 era Mustang that's beaten up. I have thought about buying one because I love how those still look. The interior also had the neat gauges. Yeah, the round retro gauges and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I came so close to buying a 2013 multiple times back when I had the BRZ and stuff. And they're really cool. I still love them. Danny says, I like the 2012 Ford Mustang. That startup chime has always hit different with me. Yeah, the Ford, I can't remember the 2012, but if it's the same one as other Fords, it's just the usual Ford chime. But they did do some different things. I don't remember what it sounds like. Nathaniel says, can you solve this riddle? There's only one right answer. I'm looking for a brand new small SUV, has to have 260 horsepower, all-wheel drive, 10-inch touchscreen, digital gauges, brand new for 31 grand. What car is this? Dodge Hornet. I saw, like, especially, being you, Nathaniel, that kind of gave me a hint as well. But I'm pretty sure that's the only one that fits the bill there. B. Mitchell says, okay, talking about the show, Danny says he believes Ford Explorer Sport had the detuned show EcoBoost. Yeah, when we're talking about that new last gen show, yeah, that was just the off the shelf. I believe it was a 3.5 liter, which was put in Explorer, was put in F-150, was in a bunch of stuff. It wasn't too unique, unfortunately, for that show. B. Mitchell says Yamaha also did the late 1960s Toyota 2000. Really? Okay, well, there's another fantastic example then. Thanks. I didn't know that. I mean, Toyota 2000. I mean, talk about no explanation needed there. I mean, that's amazing. So they collaborated with Toyota to design the two ZZGE. Okay, yeah. I mean, why is Yamaha not? I mean, they'd be a much more viable car company, especially on the gas side compared to half these companies out there these days. Could you imagine if they had like all these amazing engines that sounded amazing and good looking cars? Yamaha did a concept that was essentially, I think, like them taking one of their three-wheeled things or something and just giving it a fourth wheel, if I remember correctly, and like doing a small little K car kind of thing for Japan. And that never happened, I don't think, but like something like that would be amazing. And I don't know why they decided against it, but someone needs to get behind that. Toyota or somebody needs to just like give them the money and like, here you go, do whatever you want to do. And it would be pure genius, I think. Good Success. Do you think as technology improves, people will get worse and worse at driving? Absolutely. I think that's kind of the trend we're already seeing is, people can let their guard down more. And I think part of the reason why they let their guard down so much already is just because of how easy cars have become to drive. Not even talking about the technology, but just the fact that, it used to be that, I mean, I reviewed, these cars in the 50s and the 60s, and you had to like constantly focus on keeping the car driving straight. Obviously looser steering, over time gets crappier, and, that's a whole age component as well. But even brand new, like a lot of these cars, like, would wander and drift, and you had to like pay attention to like going in a straight line, and you had to pay attention to shifting, you had to pay attention to all these things. And now, it's a brainless task in many ways. It's just cars basically almost drive themselves anyway, as far as, you just keep it pointed the right direction and you don't go too fast or too slow or whatever. And as long as you can work it, it's very simple. And so I think this is why, since speed limits haven't evolved with cars, everyone feels like they're crawling when they're doing 55. If you're actually doing 55 at a 55, it's like you're going nowhere because all these cars are designed to easily coast at 90, So like, I think that's part of it as well. I mean, there's obviously the speed kills, and that is a valuable statistic. Is the higher speed limits get, the more intense the crashes get. But like on the inverse, I think if people were actually able to legally do faster speeds, they would be paying attention more. Or hopefully, they would. Maybe it's already too late and they've already lost interest in driving. But I just feel like if it was a more challenging task, that people would then devote more mental resources to doing it. But it's just too easy. And then, now, especially you tell them, okay, now you have automatic emergency braking. Now you have lane keep assist. You have these, every assist possible. And I think it's good because, again, people have just clearly proven that they are not up to the task, or they just don't care to do the task anymore. So it's like, okay, well, we're going to take that off your hands now because you've proven yourself to not be worthy of the task in many cases. And so, yeah, I think that's going to be something you're going to see more and more of, is especially like, I mean, I love Super Cruise, but if like Super Cruise becomes a widespread thing and then you see every company eventually go to that same hands-free thing, I think you're going to see a lot of people that struggle with higher speed steering eventually, if everyone's super cruising everywhere at some point, in the future. The dexterity, I suppose, of just the skill of properly turning into a corner and holding a corner safely, like things like that, are going to be, like things that do take some skill and some practice. Ask any 16-year-old or whatever, but like once you get that, then it's natural and it's easy. But I think if you're out of practice on that stuff, then it's going to immediately, catch people off guard. And the real danger is whenever these systems fail, because again, talking in a far distant future where we have autonomous cars where people truly can't actually even drive them, and might not even have a license anymore or whatever, or if you have even just, again, highly advanced assistance that people have used for years and years, at some point, then it's like, what if it fails and all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, I'm mid corner and I have no clue how to take a car through a corner anymore. Those are the types of things that eventually, yes, could be very much dangerous. Hopefully we have, again, redundancies, and these things would have fail safes, so they wouldn't just leave you high and dry, at a split second like that. But, that's the thing, is the more we put our, fate into the hands of computers, things can fall apart. Sadly, we see this again with autopilot and airplanes as well. These, again, talking about Boeing, the MAX planes, a lot of these, pilots just didn't have the training because they weren't, the top pilots in the world, like they don't have as high of training standards as we have here in the States. And they didn't know how to handle the situation that happened in the MAXs because they were so used to the planes doing all the flying for them, essentially, aside from takeoff and land. And so they just, again, they didn't know how to handle that. And obviously there's other design issues with the plane and stuff that made that more challenging. But like, I've talked to people who are in the, flight attendants and things like that, who are like any American pilots that's trained with our airlines would know how to have handled that situation. Obviously, some things still happen out of anyone's control, but some of these things were avoidable, and it's just a training thing because autopilot fails or, something, doesn't go as planned and the training isn't good enough to kick in there. So, I mean, I think in the air industry, we already saw this with the Maxes falling out of the sky. And I think that's, the danger you can see from obviously a lesser extent with cars in the future if we get to that point of everyone autopiloting around everywhere. So, but still, it's probably a net gain because if you have, even if the computers fail 1 in a million times or something, that's probably still much less risk, from a crash rate standpoint compared to how many people crash every single day because they're just sucking at driving. So hopefully we're still headed in the right direction from a net good standpoint, but of course there's still going to be the stuff that ends up falling through the cracks there. But anyway, long tangent, but very interesting question. Thanks for asking, Good Stick. And Danny says, I saw a YouTube video a couple weeks ago. Someone had a WRX or a Subaru SVX hit 300,000 during a 0-60 run on its fourth trans rebuild. Man, that's impressive that they're keeping it going there. But yeah, 300,000 on any Subaru motor is impressive as well, I'd say. So, and SVX, it's great to see one of those still kicking. I love the one that I reviewed. When was that? Like a year and a half ago now or something. No one wanted to really watch it, but I'm happy I did it still because I finally drove an SVX. Dylan says G70 had about 2 inches shorter wheelbase and roughly 200 pounds lighter than the Stinger. Okay, so yeah, thanks for the update on that. And Zachary says the new merch store is pretty sweet. Nice touch with the lowball glass. I have one on the way. Oh, thanks, Zachary. I appreciate that. Yeah, I didn't publicize that yet just because I wanted to do like a cool I want to be able to show off the stuff. And as you saw this past weekly update, I was on the road, so I wasn't able to, bring the merch with me and show it off. And I just didn't have time, honestly, to do anything nice in the hotel room there. So this week's weekly update, I'll be doing my actual announcement, but I'm happy you're seeing it. Obviously, I had it integrated on the videos already. So I'm happy you stumbled upon it there, Zachary. And yeah, if anyone else, feel free to check it out. There's, I believe, supposed to be a little shelf here. But that's, brand new merch store I've been working on. I switched to a new merchant. It's fourth wall now, which does really good quality stuff. And the lowball glass is the one thing I'm especially excited about because I'm going to have that now for my toast, in the weekly update, having a glass with a name name on it. And for those of you who want to toast with me in the weekly updates, or I even have like the pint glass on there as well. If you would like a beer or something instead, you have that option as well. But yeah, I thought that was kind of a fun little addition. I'm really glad they were able to do it. I bought one myself. The quality is really good. I did want to like check the quality out to make sure this stuff wasn't, crap, because some of the spring stuff, it was fine, but I wasn't super happy with it. I mean, like I still have all my merch and it's still held up pretty well. But this new stuff seems to be a lot better. And just the options, like you can, as you saw, I'm able to do Adidas hoodies. They're expensive. I'm not making very much off of those, but they're already just so expensive just to get the Adidas hoodie and then to put the name on, is just a little bit extra. But I mean, it's just cool to have that option. So instead, if you want to have a nice high quality hoodie and you still want to support the channel and, walk around, with it on your chest, which again, I don't expect anyone to do, but if you want, it's there, you have the option. And I'm also hoping to do some more cool stuff too. Like actually the person, if you remember many weekly updates or many live streams ago, whenever Beth was joining, this was a few months back, someone had made, and I don't know if he's in here tonight, but he made a shirt that is basically saying like piano black, great on pianos, not on car interiors. And it's kind of a fun shirt that he just designed just for fun. And I asked him if I could put that on the site. And he said, absolutely. He's going to send me over the files, but I haven't gotten those yet. So I'll be adding that to the merch store as the final edition here, but I'm hoping to do some more stuff. If I have a creative thought that goes through my brain for once, I can maybe, put some other cool shirts out there, to just be more topical and not just, the branding. Cause I think that could be a fun way to kind of expand the brand as well, just with, interesting shirts. I'm like, why is that not a t-shirt? And be like, I'm going to make it a t-shirt. I'm horrible at graphic design, but even if I just go on Fiverr and pay someone a few bucks to do a design or something, hopefully it would work out. But anyway, I'm glad you saw it, Zachary. And yeah, feel free to check out the new store, guys. If there's anything that you like, or I'd love your feedback. If there's anything that, you wish there was, or things that you don't like or whatever, definitely let me know. I'd love to get anyone's feedback on that. And Good Stick says, if people whose cars have Android Auto and CarPlay still look at their phone, take their license away. Yeah, there's some of that too. It's so funny too. Like I saw someone in a Grand Highlander the other day who had their phone up to their ear. And I mean, obviously, like at least with that, you're looking where you're going. But it's just like, I mean, maybe it's like it was a private phone call and they didn't want it, going through the speakers or whatever. But it's just like, it's so strange when I see people in new cars holding their phones up to their ear all the time. And I'm like, you have Bluetooth. Like, again, unless you are doing some super confidential call or something, like why is anyone driving around holding their phone up to their ear? If you're in anything from the past 10 years or more, I feel like you probably have Bluetooth, so it's always interesting. That's another head scratcher. And I see people hold their phone up to their head like it's, like it's 2008 or something. Anyway, Antonio says, I saw you in the background of that movie wearing a green sweater. Nice. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Antonio. And Austin says, hey, Matt, so my friend with a GR Corolla ended up picking up a brand new Civic Type R last weekend. $5K added on for dealer accessories, but they gave him $37 for the GR. He's pretty stoked overall. Well, hopefully the dealer accessories were ones he actually wanted. I'm glad he's happy. Yeah, and I'm glad they gave him a good trade for the GR there too. I feel like a lot of dealers have been loosening up on Type R's, if I've understood correctly. I mean, again, I don't know your friend's situation as far as travel and free time to shop around and all that, but happy he's happy. Yeah, GR Corolla is great, but yeah, Type R is a different kind of fun. It just comes down to preference, and glad he found something he liked more. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd be curious to know which one's selling better right now. I'm assuming it's GR Corolla, but I could be wrong. I don't know if they even report what their sales are for each of those, but I'm curious which one's winning the sales competition. And Luke says, I hope they put the updated 1.5 174 horsepower engine from the Taos in the Jetta. Well, they already announced the Jetta stuff. Maybe they didn't announce powertrains. I think the new Jettas are already on sale, if I remember correctly, or they should be very soon. I think it's, I don't remember. I'm not even going to try and guess if they did it or not. It would make sense for them to, just have the same motor in. I just don't remember for sure. And Danny says, one car I wish the States got from Subaru was the Forester STI. The 2008 Subaru Forester STI TS is my favorite STI Forester. Yeah, and actually, I saw the other day, it was whenever I was driving around Washington State for the AVA event, because I was in the greater Portland, Oregon, and then, Washington, the line is right there. So I was in Washington much of the time as well. But there was a really nice World Rally Blue lowered Forester XT. It was the... I guess you would call it third gen. Like it's like one of those like 2008 to 2010 or something like that. Forester, I think it's 2008, 2009 for the Forester. And they had made their own like Forester STI essentially, and it looked really good. It had the gold wheels and all that, and I was like, nice. The old Super Dorks fan in me gives 2 thumbs up for that. Six Lick said, to be honest, I'm sort of at the point right now where I'm a little sick of the daily commute. I wouldn't mind subscribing to a monthly robo-taxi by Tesla that takes me from point A to point B. Yeah, as long as they do it safely, I agree. I mean, it'd be great for people who don't want to drive, get into the right lane and have those robo-taxis just, cruise at the speed limit safely in the right-hand lane. Be a much safer commute, if everyone who doesn't want to drive doesn't have to. It'd be so nice. Because then you open up the roads for people who actually want to pay attention and enjoy themselves. So I agree. That would be awesome. And, we'll see. Again, because of the failures of full self-driving, I'm not super optimistic for the robo-taxi, but I hope someday someone cracks it safely and reliably and cheaply. But yeah, it's hard to say. He says, is this what they call aging? Maybe. It's just, I think also just it's situational, it's geographical. Some places it just sucks to drive, unfortunately. I think LA traffic is one of those kinds of things where it's really tough. And this is why, I'm a firm defender of an automatic option for cars, like the GR86 and stuff like that, for people who still want to have the great handling, still want to have a fun car, but are just like, I don't want to be in a manual and miserable stop and go traffic. I can completely appreciate that. Like, and for, even though there's some people that hate the fact that, these things are often in automatics, and it's like, everyone's situation is not your situation, and I think it's great to give people those choices. Because I think that certainly helps people to get into these fun cars. But some of it also is just age. People are just tired of driving manuals, or their joints hurt, or whatever the case is. There's various reasons why that kind of stuff gets less fun. And as far as just commuting in general, I think that's just sometimes it's just people getting burned out on driving with the way things are these days, with people driving like maniacs. And thank you, Jordan, for the super chats once again. He says, corporations gather data from overseas before a U.S. debut. For some stuff, it just depends. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to in particular there. It's, I mean, I think, some of these things like the RSQ3 and things like that, they see the reception overseas, but a lot of it is just like they're so focused on like, what does the actual American buyer want? It's more so, just trying to gauge an idea based on, focus groups and stuff here in the States, because they recognize that, European tastes aren't the same as our tastes. And, a lot of it's just like, we don't need the stuff that they need in many cases, and vice versa. A lot of, companies make small little cars that most Americans wouldn't find appealing, but they're the greatest things ever elsewhere in the world. Fiat 500 is a prime example. Best selling thing in Europe in many ways. And I think for a long time actually was the top seller. The same thing like in the UK, Mini Coopers sell insanely well. They're also way cheaper there, but it's like, and yet, hardly anyone buys them around here. So, I think it's just some of that. And as far as your other super chat there, thank you again, Jordan. He says highway/street repair before autonomous driving. Yeah, that would be nice too, to see the streets be better. But I mean, it's honestly, I'd take either one. If autonomous cars were actually safe and accessible and easy, absolutely. Let them do their thing again in the right-hand lane, get out of the way, and allow us to enjoy the drive. I think that'd be awesome. It would make things a lot less stressful too, if you're not in control of the vehicle and people are just, raging, behind the glass in their robo-taxi or whatever. Instead, they can't hurt anyone or do anything crazy. Sounds good. Let me see. So Good Stick says, with robo-taxi coming in the future, I see people using cars for pleasure rather than commuting. Hopefully more sports cars on the market. Absolutely. It seems like that's, a lot of these luxury brands have also kind of understood that that is ultimately the future, and not so much even with the robo-taxi thing, but also just with, either, just gas prices, energy prices, insurance rates, just all these things, and just car prices in general getting more and more expensive. Cars are getting more out of reach for more and more people every day, with every month of average transaction prices going up. Cars are getting less and less obtainable for more and more people. And, so this is why you're seeing a lot of companies being like, what, we're fine with low volume, high profit stuff. And Mercedes is pivoting to this, and being like, let's just build cars, these one-off things for billionaires and stuff like that, instead of bothering to make an A-class, because, it's they make more money selling to 5 billionaires than telling, 20,000 A-classes in the States, or whatever the case is, so there's those types of things that are going to make it more out of reach little by little. And so, it's always kind of been the same as it is like with horses. I really envision it kind of being that way eventually, where, people said, oh, well, I'm going to go for the better thing. They, horseless carriage, and everyone dropped the horse and, went to the horseless carriage and haven't looked back for the past 125 years or more, so I think you're going to see the same thing. Like, you see horses being used for recreation on dedicated tracks, very limited usage on the street potentially, but like, that, in the far off future, I think that's kind of what you can expect. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit more widespread and mainstream, but again, if you're talking 125 years from now, I think horses, what you see from horses is what you're going to be seeing from Hellcats, in 125 years, probably, assuming, things are, if, you're able to find gasoline and, a variety of other crazy, factors. But, if we make it that long, I think that's kind of what you can expect. So yeah, it's interesting, but I think, car companies see this coming, and they're going for, the sports car stuff, the high end limited stuff, and that's it. And Evinder says, do you think the latest Audi S6 is a great car everyone forgot about? Yeah, I think it's great. And yeah, it is strange how Audi's S's don't get the love that BMW M lights get, and even the AMGs. It seems like the Audis really are, kind of in the background. And I agree. I don't know why, because I actually really like basically everything Audi does. I'm struggling to think of an Audi that's like a colossal annoyance or failure, in my opinion. Everything's pretty good. You could argue from a sales standpoint, the EVs haven't done well, but they're all like really solid. Like, I even just at this AVA event, they had a Q8 e-tron, and I didn't do a full video on that one because I just reviewed an e-tron last year, the Q8. But like, I was cruising in it to go to the airport to go home. I'm like, man, like this Q8 e-tron, even though no one buys these things, they're really nice. They're quiet. I was getting a massage from the seat while I'm listening to surround sound Bang & Olufsen, just cruising on the highway with all the driver assist stuff going. I'm like, this is a great commuter. Like, it's, and it's like, it doesn't get any credit. So yeah, I think S6 is great. I think all the Audis are great and underappreciated, honestly. And yeah, it's a shame, but I think I'd love another go on a newer S6, because the last time I've been in an S6 was, I think, the prior generation. I actually haven't driven the new one, or newer one, I guess you should say now. But yeah, I think they're all great. Garth Walker says, when my Continental was fantastic. My Continental was fantastic on the Turnpike. When I saw the Aston Martins in the rearview mirror, I got excited. With beautiful cars, and they sounded great. Then on the way home was the Ferraris. Nice. That's awesome. And Dylan says, Stellantis has invested into an aircraft company called Archer, but not sure if they're going to be involved in building or just finance. Yeah, and Stellantis has bigger fish to fry right now than figuring out a flying car or aircraft, or whatever the case is, because yeah, Stellantis is really getting hit now. They just, this past week, I think a bunch of dealers have formed some type of action against them for, things being so bad with sales at Stellantis right now. It's crazy. It's a shame. And let me see. Joshua says, been watching the channel for years. Hope the views start to grow again. Well deserved. I appreciate that, Joshua. Yeah, I'm just going to keep on working my hardest and trying to improve things and evolve as best I can to get things to a better place. But thanks, Josh. I appreciate that. Ben says, hey, Matt, not car related, but curious, how do you feel about cottage cheese? Yay or nay? I am not a cottage cheese fan. Yeah, I can't get into cottage cheese. I think it's a texture of it primarily. Just kind of puts me off. But yeah, never been a cottage cheese fan. Thanks for the fun question, Ben. Patrick says, I sat in a new BRZ this week. I'm a bit too tall for it. Dream crushed and back to my '01 Outback. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, it's I'm trying to think of like alternatives for you or something. I'm sure you've looked into alternatives already, but yeah, it's a shame because I feel like, especially with this new gen, they kind of bumped the roof out a tiny bit to try and give people a little bit more space. The 2024 Mustang is another one. I don't know if you've sat in the 24 Mustang or if you're interested in it at all, but that was one thing. They wanted to increase headroom in that. So you will see there's some changes to the roof of the Mustangs for 24 and now obviously 25 to make it a little bit roomier, especially they were thinking, I think, primarily of people wearing helmets, but obviously that, of course, benefits tall people as well. So if you thought Mustang was out previously and you haven't seen a 24 and sat in it, it might be a better fit for you. But yeah, and that's an interesting thing also. I don't know if you saw, not even remotely comparable, but the new Lamborghini Temerario, they said they really did a lot to increase the headroom in that because a lot of people that buy those are basketball players, athletes, things like that, and they wanted to make it more spacious, so they really made a lot more headroom in those, which is great. I think it's great to have fun cars that actually fit everybody. That's a nice goal to have, and so I'm glad that at least Lamborghini is able to do that, even if nobody else is. And Sixlick says, I think they need to implement a strict fast lane law in each and every state. That would be so nice. I know Ohio has one, and I notice, I think there's signs every once in a while whenever I'm driving through Ohio and I see that. It's always great to see. But yeah, it's another one of those things though, like, will they enforce will they enforce it? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but at least around here, like the audacity that people have to blow past cops at high speeds these days is wild. I was doing a car review a few months back, and I don't know, doing 5 over or something because I can't really go that fast on camera on the highway because I don't want it to seem like I'm like, speeding. I don't like filming myself speeding. So I was going, pretty reasonable, but then there was a cop that was like coming up, like kind of coming up on me because he was going faster, obviously. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm going pretty okay. Hopefully he's not, coming after me or whatever. And then I just proceed to see people just like constantly like blowing past, and then he just like, oh, he's gonna go after him, and then he just joins him, and he was just cruising the way down. I was driving for a while, and he was just cruising with these doing 70 and a 55, and everyone's like just coexisting and cool. And I mean, I gotta give kudos to the cop. Like, it's like none of these people were driving dangerously, and I mean, 70 and a 55, if conditions are correct, is totally fine and safe. But it's just like I see so many times. It's amazing. Like I'll be driving on the highway somewhere, and I use Waze, and Waze alerts me to the cops. But like sometimes I'll be like, okay, Waze is telling me there's a cop here. I'm gonna slow down, and I'm sitting there, and I cruise by doing like almost exactly the speed limit or whatever. And people blow past. I'm like, oh man, they're gonna get hammered. Nope, like nothing ever happens. It's like I never seen them actually get pulled over anymore for speeding. At least it's crazy. So I don't know how much they'd implement a fast lane law. They probably wouldn't bother, especially cops. Especially these days, it's such a dangerous thing to pull someone over that you have to have a real good reason to like start that confrontation. I think for them, I mean, there's still certainly cops that are happy to pull people over and save up for the next cop car or whatever with tickets left and right. But like I think a lot of them just kind of let stuff go a lot more these days just because of the past few years. And I don't blame them. It's got to be scary to pull someone over and not know what you're going to get. So. It's crazy, but yeah, it's one of those laws that makes a lot of sense, but in implementation, I feel like it's kind of an uphill battle. And that's why, again, it's one of those things like, let's just let technology fix this for us instead of trying to have people adhere to a law when clearly people don't care about laws very much in many ways. Let the technology fix it and lean into people's being burned out about having commutes and people just not wanting, if people don't have to do it, they're not going to. So if you just put them in a robo taxi, say you stay right over there in the right hand lane, they're there, have fun, and they can sit there and scroll on their phones to their heart's delight, and then the rest of us can enjoy ourselves. I think that's probably the better and more realistic way to actually have safer roads. as sad as it is to say, I don't think you can rely on people to, obey any rules whatsoever. And let me see. Danny says, good night, everyone. Hope all of you have a good week. I got a long week ahead with me doing marching band for my high school. It's also the marching band's first competition this Saturday. I'll see what cars I see this week in Central New Jersey. Well, hope you have a great week, Danny. Yeah, we got about another 15 or so minutes here, and then I'll be signing off as well. But that's awesome. You're in the marching band as well. We just did a little community days thing here this past weekend, and my daughter loves marching bands. She loves watching them. It's always something we make a point to go see. So just know, Danny, doing the marching band, you make a lot of little kids like my daughter happy as well. So thanks for doing that. I know it's probably a lot of work, but yeah, marching bands are awesome. You have my respect. Good Stick says, bikes are very stripped down compared to a lot of modern cars. They require real skill to drive, and one mistake can be very painful. Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely a more what's the word? It just puts more responsibility on the rider there. It's something that, again, not very popular these days as far as personal responsibility goes. And Jordan, thank you so much for the super chats again. He says DMV license future, autonomous / human operative. Yeah, I'm sure that that would be a great job to automate. It would be have AI do DMV stuff, because I feel like half the people that work at DMVs are, so annoyed by the stuff that they see all the time. It's just like DMVs are usually not great experiences. That would be a great thing to have AI do, and especially since in America they basically give anyone with a Pulse a license anyway. You can have AI do it, pretty effectively, probably, and it wouldn't be too hard, but maybe someday. And Jordan also says, horses power based on past horse races. Yeah. We will see what they end up doing with the horse thing, as far as whether that is the way of the future with cars or not. I don't know. Be very interesting to see someday. I thank you again, Jordan, for the super chats. Let me see. Danny also says, one thing before I leave, Mom's worst close call with someone was when me and my brother were in the car. Chevy Tahoe from Virginia was coming off the GSP on-ramp onto the road. We were and just didn't yield to us. So my mom slammed the brakes and laid on the horn and yelled. Of course, you were on your phone. They had their phone to the left side visible from the driver's window. Yeah, that's always the way it goes, right? People not paying attention. It was in our Chevy Bolt as well. Yeah, which is crazy to be in a small car and have someone in some giant car not paying attention. It's very, very concerning for sure. As it says, I swear Central Jersey has some of the worst drivers. I feel like everyone often says their town's like the worst, but I know I hear a lot of complaints about Jersey drivers for sure. He says they do the over under Route 1 and 9 merge. Gotcha. Crazy. Yeah, that's tough. And it says, night everyone, great talk with you, Matt. Goth says every car should offer automatic sitting with a clutch with how bad traffic is today. I really like comfort and being relaxed, especially now that I'm 41, getting old. Yeah, I think there's just no harm in offering the option, and yeah, so that's why it's so strange that the SI hasn't gone for an automatic all these years. And our repeat, thank you so much for the very generous super chat. It says just a thanks for the time, effort, and content. I appreciate that. Really means a lot. Thank you. And yeah, it's a lot. It's a labor of love for sure. And so I really appreciate the little message there. Thanks so much. Cars, thanks for being a member for 3 months now. I says, how are things going for your channel lately? I feel like views, subscribers, and viewer participation is heading in a positive direction. It's as far as the views overall, it's pretty flat, honestly. And weekly updates, I mean, the past couple weekly updates have been just bad. This past weekly update, I mean, it was a short one. It was in the hotel room there. But even in the past, doing them on the road hasn't been that bad views-wise. But, I mean, that one, I think, is like 4,000 views for a weekly update, which I think might actually be the lowest I've ever done for a weekly update ever since I was ever doing the channel consistently. They've always done at least like 7,000 or 8,000 views. And it's the weekly updates get more and more questionable by the week for me if it keeps going like this. Again, I'm sure that was just an outlier because I'm just at the mercy of the headline being sexy. If the headline isn't exciting, it's just no one's gonna watch. And this week, there wasn't a whole lot to pick from there. So it was Lucid and the towels I thought were maybe the widest appeal. So that was the headline stuff, and it is what it is. But yeah, I'm continuing to like formulate a plan for 2025, and maybe at the end of this year kind of come up with some kind of plan for how to either change the weekly updates, go to a second channel and try that. I think that's the ultimate thing. Is I'm probably, because January ad rates usually suck, because the problem is, like, to do a second channel, I won't be monetized on that second channel until I get a certain amount of watch hours, which means views primarily. And so basically the way with how many views I get on the weekly updates, it would basically be doing them for free for a month before I'd be able to monetize that second channel. And I'm not in the luxury to be able to just like throw out a month of revenue for the weekly updates currently. But January, since January usually pays so terribly for ads, that's less of a hit. So I'm thinking maybe January is when I do the second channel, try that as a last ditch thing. And if that doesn't significantly improve things, then it's probably going to be the tough decision to be like, look, I know everyone loves this, but it's going to be like, doing those videos, like I would be making more money doing minimum wage McDonald's work for the 2 days a week that I do that weekly update and the time that it takes. It's like I'd make more money working at McDonald's than doing those weekly updates. So like that's the state of those, because they have no evergreen life. The car reviews, even if they bomb, eventually they get views and eventually they make a little bit of money and they continue to contribute to the channel. But weekly updates don't do that. No one watches it after the first week or two. So that's why I kind of give the reviews a little bit more leeway than the weekly updates. But it's just like if I'm doing them essentially for free, where I can, do some other easy job to walk into and make more money doing, then like I'm not going to do weekly updates anymore. It's just I can't do it, So that's really where it's going to be. So I mean, that's the biggest thing I would say is if you want to see the weekly updates, stick around. Like, please try and support those any way you can, because that's the thing that's on the chopping block for 2025. Just it's like I just have to make sure I'm not wasting my time. So that's the only thing. The car reviews, though, I think I'm confident. I'm coming up with some new ways to package things. The Land Cruiser video this week was a prime example of packaging really being important. If I would just have labeled that Land Cruiser video like my week with a Land Cruiser, it would have gotten the same kind of usual views as it does, and it would have been fine. But it's like I said, there's one problem with the Land Cruiser that opens up a mystery. What's the problem? I have to click and watch and see what is it. Is it, some horrible thing? Is it some minor thing? Is it clickbait? But like people want to know. And I'm not a good marketer. I can say that for sure. I'm not good at, making things more appealing. I'm very straightforward. As you've seen with my titles for years, it's review this car, maybe a little thing afterwards of, one little thought or teaser or something. But like, it's very straightforward. And I know that that's not what I need to do. I have to evolve and make titles and sell myself better, and do thumbnails that are more, thought inducing and things like that. And so that's what I'm really going to try and work on for the reviews. But with the news, again, I'm at the mercy of what the news is, and I can only package that so much before, again, it just gets clickbaity. So again, it's something I'm continuing to work on. I'm going to try and evolve as best I can, but yeah, it's still a struggle. I'm hanging in there, from a channel standpoint, getting rid of the bullet certainly helped save some money and keep us going a little bit here. And we're going into the fall season, and ad rates are always better here as we get into the holidays and stuff. So I'll be fine the rest of the year. But yeah, the future is still uncertain in general for 2025. So we'll see. If someone gives me some amazing offer, from a car company or something like that, I mean, this might turn into a part-time thing altogether. We'll see. But I'd love to do it forever, but it's just one of those things. Again, I can only take so much decrease before I finally gotta, tap out and be like, all right, I'm out. I gotta do something else, So we'll see, but we'll see what happens. Sorry for the rant there, cars, but yeah, I think some areas again are good. Like again, that Land Cruiser video being a pleasant surprise for sure. Jordan, thank you for another super chat. He says, would you like Ford to succeed with affordable cars? Absolutely. I think that would be fantastic. I think they already are with Maverick, and I think that they'll hopefully have more success with this little $25,000 EV that they're working on, and hopefully, just do more of that. I think would be great. So we'll see. And Ford enthusiasts, thank you so much for joining the Matt Roy Motoring Club here. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the perks. Let us know. Again, if you need any help getting into the Discord server, any of the other stuff, definitely send me a message. I'll be happy to send you the link there to that. And all the contact info is in the description below there as far as what social media or email you want to use to reach out there. But let me see here. Going to catch up on the other member questions here before we sign off. So Wayne Yim says, Matt, funny you mentioned that Road Rally Blue Forester XT. I used to live in Vancouver/Portland and remember seeing that car out and about from time to time. Wow, that's wild. Yeah, so I'm sure there's probably not many. So we probably saw the same car. That's awesome. Strata says, hey, Matt, looking at the Nitro as a daily and intro to EVs, or Nero, sorry, as an intro and daily to EVs. Should I lease the hybrid for a year, then switch to the plug-in hybrid /EV, or start with the plug-in hybrid EV first? So, I mean, Nero hybrid, if you've never had a hybrid before and you're apprehensive about that, then that could be a fine first step. But I think, hybrids aren't too big of a leap. So I feel like you're probably better off if you want to try an electrified experience, I would just go for the plug-in hybrid one first. I think that's a really good first step. Try that on for size, see what you think about the electric range. Just keep in mind that, it's not going to be as good of an experience as a full EV from a, obviously power standpoint, from, the ability to lower your costs on your commute, because you're still going to have to do oil changes. You still have to fill up every once in a while. You don't get the full benefits of the EV, but you do get a lot of them. So I think plug-in hybrid would be a great first step. I think this is why you're seeing, plug-in hybrid popularity explode. And Nero is great. So yeah, I think that's a great first step. And yeah, I mean, especially Nero EV isn't fantastic, from just the spec standpoint. I think with the deals on stuff, you're better off picking up a lightly used EV6. If you're looking at Kias, I mean, they're under 30 grand, you could pick up one of those. If you actually wanted to make the leap for EV, then, if you're going to make the leap to EV, leap into a good one, a really good one to give you a good first impression of, super fast charging, really good power, great efficiency, and a really, space efficient package, that kind of stuff, versus Nero or Kona Electric, things like that, which aren't quite as good, So that's my advice there. Feel free if you have any follow-up, though, I'd be more than happy, or even messages if you want to send me a message, Stress, on whatever social, let me know, and I'd be more than happy to talk you through that a little bit more too. And Caleb says, I had a friend get ticketed in Oklahoma for driving the speed limit. Cop said he was impeding the flow of traffic, which is against the law. That's really wild. And Austin says, cops don't try that hard anymore for a lot of reasons, but I won't get political. Yeah, there's certainly some of that too that plays into it for sure. He says, not sure if you already covered this, Matt, but I hear the 500E production has been halted for a month due to low demand. They only sold about 200 in the US so far. Yeah, the problem is the price right now. It's just way too expensive. I mean, you just look at the lease deals, because right now that's the game for EVs, is what is the lease deal. And I mean, 500E, because I actually reviewed the 500E. That's one of the cars that'll be coming this fall, but that was one of the ones I drove this week on this drive event. And I mean, I love the 500E. It's actually a really fun little thing in my opinion, spoiler alert. But yeah, they're not selling because they're too expensive. I think I saw they were, $339 a month with also a big chunk of money down. That's just not good. I mean, $339 a month gets you a Blazer EV. $300 a month gets you an Equinox EV. Both are miles better from space, from power, from range. I mean, blows 500E out of the water, so unless you're deliberately wanting a small city car and an Equinox EV is too big for you, which is not that big, I mean, that's the niche you're dealing with there, and aside from just the people that are like, oh, it's cute, let me just get one for fun, it's just the money's not there. So that's the problem. Once they get some deals on those, that's when you'll see it pick up. And it's funny you actually asked this, because at this AVA event, there was a few manufacturer reps there. And actually, Fiat was one of the reps that was there. Really nice guy, actually a former journalist who knows what we do and all that as well. And I asked him, I'm like, I always kind of preface like, you don't have to say too much. I know you're not allowed to say, everything, but like, I was like, how are you guys feeling about 500e so far as reception here in the States? And he's like, he's like, it's going to take time. It's one of those things that's going to take time. Hardly anyone knows about it anyway, there's no marketing behind it yet. There's no commercials. But he says it's just going to take time. And I think also, they can't come out of the gate with some super low lease rate. Really, they have to, get the early adopters, the people that are going to get them and pay whatever. There are a lot of people that are excited about it coming back, at least as far as city cars goes and stuff. There will be some of those people that will happily pay $339 a month for a 500e, but then the people that cross shop, the people on the fence, once we get through this early adopter phase for them, then it's like, okay, well, now we're going to make the pricing competitive. Same as any other EV. Everyone was paying 10 grand markups on Mach-E's, and now they can't give Mach-E's away, in many cases. So it's just that same thing. Any car company is going to start off, at a higher price point, and then the deal's got to come in, and so that's just kind of, the natural progression here. So I think that's why it's off to a slow start. It will get better, eventually. And, it's just going to come down to how badly, Tavares wants to drop those prices and again, get the metal moving at Stellantis again. But I think, and I just also hope, Fiat's got all these cool other, concepts and stuff that they're coming out with and other things coming in Europe. It's just something that, is, we'll see what they end up doing. They fortunately the rep wouldn't tell me anything. He's just like, yeah, we love all the concepts too, and all the, cool stuff over in Europe. And he's an enthusiast, so he obviously wants all the stuff brought over here too. So it's just a matter of, what makes sense again, what can they make a business case on, what can't they, and I hope that Fiat has a good future here. But yeah, it's interesting how 500e is, they just came out with a higher price. So we'll see how long it takes before they drop the prices on those, but it'll happen. And TF5PW says weekly update at McDonald's. Yeah, well, I won't be able to multitask if that's the case. I used to work at McDonald's as my first job, actually, and I'm sure the situation hasn't changed. There's probably no live streaming allowed while you're working. And Yavinder, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, keep up the hustle, Matt. I've been watching you since I was 12 and now I'm 22. That's awesome. Thanks so much, Yavinder, for the support. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm going to keep on hustling and hope it pays off. And Jordan, thank you for super chat as well. He says, Chad works at McDonald's and I work at Whataburger. We both support the channel. I really appreciate that. Thanks so much. And thanks for doing what you do as well. I know those are often thankless jobs. And it's, it's not particularly fun work sometimes, I'm sure, especially dealing with people. Any job where you have to deal with people can get, miserable, I'm sure. So it's one of the nice things too, is I'm very fortunate. I just deal with great people, whether it's here in the lives or it's, awesome other reviewers or just me sticking to myself and, interacting with cars instead. But anyway, yeah, I really appreciate the support, Jordan. And yeah, we are over time here, so I'm just going to do the last few questions and then we will sign off. So I see PM says he enjoys the weekly updates as well. Thank you so much for watching on PM. And Ben says, I enjoy the weekly updates, but understand if you have to create content that gives you the most bang for your buck. I appreciate that. And I know in the past, that's what a lot of people have said too, is, like, don't go broke doing them, but, hopefully they can stick around. So we'll see what happens. And Jordan says, Whataburger and McDonald's employees here. Gotta do what you gotta do to pay the bills. Absolutely. And B. Mitchell says, do you want fries with that Corolla GT? Right. Yep. I can try and get some fun Hot Wheels cars back in the Happy Meals. I feel like the toys for Happy Meals these days aren't as fun as they were when I was growing up. Ford Enthusiast says, hey, Matt just joined. I am looking at a number of EVs, test drove an Ioniq 5 and a Mach-E, going to test drive an EV6 GT and an ID4. Any recommendations or thoughts? It's really going to come down to exactly, what your priorities are, what you're, most excited about with those vehicles and what draws you to the ones that you've already, mentioned there. It's one of those things I usually like more context to give you a better recommendation, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on what you think about the ones you've driven already. And if you'd like Ford enthusiasts, there's always, again, little contact info there in the description as far as email, Facebook message, Instagram, whatever. If you ever want to send a message, I'll be more than happy to go back and forth with you and really, work through my thoughts on stuff and, taking whatever inputs you're giving me as far as, what you're looking for, what you need, what you want. I can hopefully really drill down and give you a really good recommendation there based on, again, all my experiences driving those. But as far as, before you drive the EV6 GT and their ID4, I mean, yeah, I don't want to taint your opinions of things or give you any kind of preconceived notions going into this stuff. So I kind of you're probably better off going into it with an open slate and an open mind and just kind of seeing, what's what. But EV6 GT is a ton of fun, as you will probably see pretty early on there. And they're very, very cheap with the discounts on them. It's kind of crazy. I think you can get a used EV6 GT now for like under 40 for a car that does like a 3.5 seconds 0 to 60. It's really bonkers. It's right up there with like Model 3 performance from a value per dollar standpoint, from a drag racing kind of perspective. At least it's impressive. So, excuse me. And Austin says, no shame in using some clickbait occasionally, Matt. Lots of respected YouTubers do it now. Yeah, to me, it's not me. I value you guys too much. I would never want to trick someone into watching a video. And if we're talking clickbait where it's just like overselling or making things a little bit too exciting compared to what's actually in the video, that's, I guess, I don't know if I really necessarily call it clickbait. Clickbait to me more so is like actually not delivering on what the thumbnail and the title is promising. And that I still can't respect. And I know there's car YouTubers that do all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of car YouTubers I don't respect, to be completely honest. It's just, but everyone does things differently and everyone has their own moral compass, and, they've made their peace with whatever they do, and it is what it is. But, to me, that's one thing. I would rather quit doing car reviews than do them with less integrity, and do them being deceptive or fake or, any of that kind of stuff. I just rather quit. There's more to life. I love doing car reviews and it still is my dream job, but I'm not going to throw my, integrity or anything like that out the window. And to me, true clickbait would be throwing that out the window to me. But B. Mitchell says there's a fine line between teaser and clickbait. Absolutely. And in that case, yeah, the teaser thing, that component, again, if it is delivering on what it is promising and it's just exciting, that's completely different to me. And that's fine. That's, again, just effective marketing and packaging. So that's kind of, the hope is make it more teasing and, definitely not clickbait though. And Austin says, last question for the night, junkyard video when? I know. So the problem is just that I have so many, again, I literally just filmed 11 car reviews this week at this event and getting through 11 car reviews, again, doing 2 a week, that increases my backlog that was already about 2 months long into a 3-month long backlog. And someone actually commented on the Land Cruiser video, because I posted that, this week, and I'm like, the fuel economy isn't that great. Like, and this is the middle of the summer. And people are like, you're talking about the middle of the summer and it's September, man. Like, you got a backlog here. And I'm like, I know. So I have to quit being so specific in some of my videos as far as the situational stuff, because some of these things, you're going to be seeing some stuff in December that I'm filming in September here. Like, you'll be seeing stuff at Christmas time that I'm filming in right now. So like I have such a backlog, and adding any new kind of content just, again, doesn't help that. Now, if it's, again, that we were talking previously about like a live junkyard video, which I'm still open to. It's just, again, I'm so backlogged that like I just want to like spend more time at the computer here just banging out videos and just knocking them out to try and limit that, because I don't like having a super huge backlog, because then manufacturers are like, are you going to post a video or not? And like they usually don't love it whenever it's super late, because again, like I don't want to be posting 2024 like model your cars into 2025. Like that just usually looks bad, and especially if the company's like, well, we gave it to you in 2024. Why are you posting it in 2025? There's that whole kind of thing too. So like, there's some of that like, I need to make sure it doesn't get too long for the backlog. But I trust me, especially as a live thing that removes all the editing, burden and all that stuff. If I can just show up and like be like, I'm going live and just walk around a junkyard, and then whenever it's done, and it's like zero work other than that. If I can do that, I'm hoping maybe I can try and work something in here in the next few months if I can get through this backlog a little bit better and a little quicker. Maybe sometime early next year. I'd say from a pessimistic standpoint, knowing how overloaded I am, maybe that could be something for the spring, but hopefully I don't have to make everyone wait that long who's excited about that. But I see B. Mitchell says he's waiting for that as well. Yeah, and I mean, the junkyard around here is so good. Like every week they're like, here's some new stuff we got, and they do a really good job of keeping everyone up to date on what they're getting in. And they get some really interesting stuff. So I want to do it so bad. And hopefully I'll get there at some point soon. Thanks for continuing to show your support for that idea as well, Austin. It's good to know that there's some staying power to that idea. Dylan says, tapping out of a dream job never gets easy. I had to leave 2 dream jobs. If it comes to that, cherish what you're able to do, achieve one of your dreams. It's always better than wondering what if. That is great advice. Thank you, Dylan. And sorry to hear that you had to give up your dream jobs as well there. But yeah, it's a very good perspective to say, at least you did it, and be proud of that and happy that and grateful that it happened. And that may be, what ends up happening here. We'll see. But hopefully, again, I can turn things around. And I've talked to some other YouTubers as well in this scene. And, before anything like that were to ever happen, I have a few other avenues I'd probably explore of people being like, hey, if you really get to that point, like, come talk to me. Let's see if we can maybe, work something out of me contributing to somebody else's channel or, doing something else. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm going to try and cling on, for dear life here as long as I can, because I definitely don't want to quit doing this if I can avoid it. But anyway, Good Stick says, is the Miata more of a track toy or a weekend car or a good daily driver? So I'd say it's all the above. I mean, daily driver obviously is probably the worst case for that, but I mean, even that, I would love the daily driver with Miata. It's so much fun as long as you don't need a ton of space. So yeah, I'd say it's good for all 3. And Austin says, I hope they bring the 500e Abarth over at some point. Thanks, man. Have a great week, everyone. Yeah, I'm hoping so as well. I voiced that to the Fiat rep as well. I'm like, I really hope you guys bring the Abarth. And again, no response there or intelligence as far as any info on that. But yeah, I think he knows that all the enthusiasts want it for sure. See everyone else saying to have a good week as well. And let me see. For enthusiasts, thanks. I may email you with my thoughts on all the test drives. Absolutely. Yeah. More than happy to help you. That's why I do this channel, is to help people find a car they'll love. That is absolutely my passion. And so if, going back and forth on a few emails with you for enthusiasts to help you find something that you're going to love is going to help. Absolutely. I'm more than happy to do that for you. So yeah, just let me know. And thanks again for joining tonight. And see everyone else signing off as well. Ben says, yeah, don't go Scotty Kilmer on the titles. Absolutely. Yeah, that is. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that for that one. And Caleb says, are any sponsors willing to pay for ad spots? It's been kind of dry this year for me, at least. Haven't had as many sponsor opportunities as I had. Last year, I actually had a good bit, and that really helped a lot last year. But unfortunately, not too many this year. Hopefully going into the holidays here, we'll have some more. But yeah, this year is definitely looking at it's not going to be quite as profitable as last year, but we'll see. Anyway, Sixlix says, also have a nice week, everyone. And Sixlix, yeah, I do have to send you a message as well, because there was, I think, 1 or 2 people having trouble getting into the Discord server. So hopefully, I can send you a message here and get that figured out for them as well. And I see Sixlix also says, Scotty Kilmer is a shameless man. I would tend to agree with that. But he's got a lot of fans and people that swear by his stuff, and that's what we're working against here, is people that think that's, yeah. I won't go to that. So we'll sign off on that note here. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for some more good stuff this week and some really exciting stuff coming later this month, especially. It's out of the ordinary from what I usually do. So if you're not a member, definitely stay tuned for that stuff. If you are a member, check out the member schedule here I have in the member posts, and you can see all the upcoming stuff we got here for the rest of the month. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Have a great week once again. Thanks for hanging out, and take care.